an interesting one by Dr. Harini Atturu and Udaya Kumar Dintyala, an AI-based e-learning application framework to augment developmental needs for children with autism. Dr. Harini, she's a product specialist at Cognitive Biotechs, committed to development of software for providing integrated autism therapies using artificial intelligence to benefit children with autism and their families. She worked with NHS UK for nearly 12 years. She completed her psychiatry training at North Western Deanery. She has rich experience working in adult intellectual disability services and neurodevelopmental services. She has been working in India for the last 6 years. And Udaya is the chairman of Cognitive Biotechs. Udaya is an experienced technology expert with more than 3 decades of experience in cloud and AI business development. He has worked at various MNCs, including AT&T in India, where he served as an executive director and country manager. He is also the father of a person with autism. Let's have both of them on the stage, and let's hear what they have to say. Thank you.
All of you are familiar. Some of you are parents here. Some of you are therapists here. If you see these moments of truth from left to right, you can say first, diagnosis, the whole world falls down. And going to find therapists, intervention, mother sacrifices the career, all the stuff, In the process of intervention, all the way from 2.5 years to 23 years, it's my son's journey, which was an inspiration for me to do all these things. You resonate with some of these moments of truth as a parent. That therapist tells you, where is the report? You are not keeping all the reports. And at the same time, she will not give a single dollar discount on the therapy. So you have to earn money, at the same time keep all the records straight. And you also have to develop life skills in the people. My son at the age of 16 was running away from the class, though he knows language and everything. Then we had to use probiotics by researching ourselves. You have to keep all these things in mind. And today, I want to inform you, he's a near independent. He finished his undergrad in computer applications. You see this young gentleman there? Can you see him? He's my son Ram, and he lives a near independent life. There's a whole lot of sacrifice from my wife, and a whole lot of help from therapists, doctors, friends, community, all of them. It's not one single therapy. It's about a holistic view of the whole thing, the family coming together, music coming together. He plays violin, he plays keyboard. All these things have helped him. He's not I don't say whiz kid or a maestro in all these areas, but all these things have helped him. So today I'm going to talk about 3 factors. The first thing is about how digital technology, what is digital technology, and what is happening in this area, because that's my area. The 2 dots, I'm a father of an autistic kid, also a digital guy, so I'll try to visualize both the things together and how we can help the whole globe at the lowest cost. The second area, Dr. Harini will talk about what we call, from a research angle, how technologies can help the people with autism. The last area is the product demo. I give you the complete product, how the artificial intelligence and advanced technologies enable keeping all these wisdoms. Like you saw some small wisdoms, nuggets of wisdom coming from previous speaker. All these wisdoms you remember, but you forget. You need a structure. Anybody in this room, have you done a degree without a syllabus, with a textbook? Unfortunately for autism, there is no textbook. Do you agree with me? There is no textbook. The syllabus constantly changes. The parents get confused thoroughly, actually. So we try to build a structure into the whole scheme of things. The parent pain points, I'll be very, very quick with these things, because the fun part is in the later part, the tool itself. So just want to go through it. You know the pain points. Therapists are not there from a ubiquity standpoint. And time and geographic limitations, okay? you have to lug around your kid to a therapy center, and the kid has to break from the school, his academic activity has gone wrong. A change. Now, people with autism don't like changes. When you take him to a new place or a new therapist, again, it takes time to adjust himself, actually. Tracking the progress. The therapist says, keep every record, what you did. And the parents have to juggle around their career as well as this piece and remember everything what somebody told you to do. It's a big thing. And at the same time, tell you one thing, even if you do the MBA or MBBS or a degree in doctorate, you have to refer something before you go to the next conference. You don't remember everything here. Same thing if you teach eye contact to a kid and take him to a birthday party after, say, 6 months, what are the chances he remembers the skill? Just-in-time review is a problem. So with all these problems in mind, we try to solve it. These are not the parents' problem, these are the kids' problem. There is another angle to it that is doctors and therapists' problem.
So, as a psychiatrist, when I was in my clinic looking after the patients, these people, I work in Hyderabad. It's a very big city, very growing city in South India. And the parents would come from surrounding villages, district towns. I have to break the bad news saying, I'm sorry, your child has autism. And that itself is devastating to the mother or father or caregiver. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I don't have medication, I don't have cure. So it's added pain for them. And then I say, okay, I have some therapists in Hyderabad, but they live somewhere else. So it's like I'm breaking one bad news after other, making them helpless. I'm no way giving any hope or doing anything for this mother who is already devastated. So what do I say to them? Now, if I see many parents, husband will be working somewhere in the town, mother brings the child, lives in the city, brings her old grandmother or her mother, and starts living a life for those few months or years so the child can start having therapies regularly. Not just in India, we see the same even from US. People say that they are in a long waiting list. In UK, they are in a long waiting list. So the diagnosis is not just the one that's affecting the child. It's the parents, grandparents, their social life, their community, their happiness, their finance, everything goes heavy. And they have to deal with it. So it's hurting. What am I doing there? I just have to say these bad news and send them away and wait for some miracle to happen. So we see that, as Uday Garu was saying, there are therapists in Hyderabad, but just if you step out, there are not very many. So we had to think, what can we do differently? So that's where these parents spoke to me, and we came up with all this model.
So, in short, the digital technologies are the way to deliver that scalability that we want to have. And at the same time, something money cannot buy. For example, there is a very rich man, okay? He has a ton of money to buy all the therapists in the globe, but he can't track progress, keeping every track of everything. He can't practice at home. He can't create situations like several things in the life which we'll talk about. So without much ado, I'll move forward with this. These are digital technologies, a kind of a primer. So consider like a artificial intelligence class for you, but I'm not going to give a class to you. I'll be very, very quick. So if you see these areas, you have artificial intelligence on this side, and you have augmented reality on this side, and big data on this side, and then you have ChatGPTs and DALL-E coming into the way. We'll give a quick primer to you so that you know how we are weaving all these technologies to be relevant to the autism person, okay? Make sense? These are digital technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Everybody knows that is happening. And this helps you. A simple example like if somebody pays the loan or not, okay? all of you borrow credit cards and loan and all the stuff. You can use machine learning models to classify whether somebody pays loan or not, somebody gets a heart attack or not, somebody will be able to do something or not, a computer will die or not. All these things can be done through machine learning models. Some of the things by estimating the future data is your railway reservation estimation. You can do when the reservations will be done, whether your ticket, waitlisted ticket, what are the chances it will become good. And heart attack predictions, you can do all these things using future data, which is one of the power of artificial intelligence. The deep learning, another area. In this deep learning models, can you play the video, please?
Yeah.
Oh, this is an example of speech to text, one of the deep learning model, one of the thing. All of us use Siri, right? The same thing. It happens at very low cost. And frankly speaking, we leverage this technology to deliver 70 plus languages. The madam, Maya, I think she comes from Tunisia, and she's in Abu Dhabi, and she needs Arabic and some part of French and some part of English. And somebody else comes from India, probably, and Malayalam. Somebody comes from Pakistan, they want Urdu or whatever it is. So our product, leveraging such kind of technologies, can give you a voice. The computer can speak 70 plus languages. It can understand 70 plus languages, including 6 accents of English. 6 accents of English. And if you give 30 minutes of your voice, we can convert, we can make the computer speak like a parent actually, if it makes sense for the kid actually. So we have a range of technologies. That's where I'm giving an example of deep learning. We'll show you how it is implemented. Make sense? Digital technologies help you to understand the facial emotions. In this picture, if you see here, you can figure out is smiling or sad, surprised. It is able to figure out what is the kind of emotion. What do you do in therapy? In therapy, you show a picture of a smiling kid and ask him, hey, what's happening here? If he shows a smile, you pat him on the back. If he says sad, you try again. But to do this part, would you like to lug around your kid all the way somewhere? You can do it at home, practice what the therapist has taught. That way it augments the therapist's efforts. So it's a simple game. The family pictures are uploaded, and bingo, the kid's whatever emotion he chooses as an answer is married or rather matched with what happens in internet on the back end actually. So that way we can teach these things. This is GAN, Generative Adversarial Networks is one of the technology of AI where you give 30 minutes of voice, we can make computers speak like you. We can utilize this technology, we use this technology to make it happen. Then you have ChatGPT, DALL-E, and Whisper. I want to tell a story here. My son did his engineering in computer applications. He failed one exam. He came home for holidays. He knows he failed the exam. My person at home, who is a housemaid, she asked, hey, Ram, how did you pass your exam? He said, yeah, I passed the exam. He did fail, in fact, but he said, I passed the exam. So this is called deception, actually. All of us practice. We have something in the mind, like the way all of you must be thinking, what is this guy is talking about in the evening, between the evening, Friday evening and right now, right? But at the same time, you are very respectful to me because I'll feel bad. That's a deception. Autism kids lack the deception, actually. I was so happy that day that this guy learned deception now. How do you learn deception? This is the highest order function, actually. This happens, Bhagwan or the God has given this way. You put small pieces, ultimately it builds. Okay? That's why we learn A for apple, B for boy when I'm 5 years old and we do 2 into 2 is equal to 4. But suddenly this guy becomes an Einstein after 10, 12 years working in Harvards and Cambridges. How it happens? This is the way brains works. You have to stimulate it constantly. So we can use ChatGPT, DALL-E, Whisper kind of technologies to build tools to teach them sarcasm and what is a joke and what is deception. This is what called higher order thinking, actually. I will tell you guys, augmented reality is another area. I can bring in this room a Jupiter, a moon, a whale, and a jet engine. This transforms the way people think, and with the buttons, that too using a $200 Android tablet, I can bring it to the room, actually, using WebAR kind of technologies. Imagine how they learn, because these guys are experiential learners, right? Agreed? You don't agree with me? How many of you are thinking of the bar in the evening now? Don't use deceptive thinking, okay? Huh? Are you serious? You want to stay here? Okay, cool. Yeah. You should tell others that this session was great, you missed it actually. Afterwards. And I will buy a drink for you in the evening. So, virtual reality, another technology. And what is different in virtual reality and augmented reality is, virtual reality, you live in a virtual world. Augmented reality helps you to connect the real, this room, with what you want to appear, right? So, which is good for autistic people. Our research says augmented reality is better for autism people, because if you put them in the virtual world, already they're confused a bit. They get more confused. After that, getting them out is a difficult task. Trust me on it. That's why by thinking too much, we use augmented reality as a mode of teaching the people to get used to the things and learn a lot. And then haptics. Sensory integration is one area all of us love to do, right? What is sensory integration? A kid with autism suddenly when gets out of the air-conditioned car takes his dress out. You feel it's weight. No. They are feeling uncomfortable with the temperature that's outside, sudden changes in the temperature. It's not weight. Imagine that you put a fire on my jacket. Don't I take it out? I feel when all are watching, I should not take it out. The same way the kid feels for a normal temperature, you have to sensitize it. Just the way, how many of you like snakes here? Nobody, you're afraid of snakes, right? But if I want to make you used to snake, I show the snake from 10 feet distance, then I bring 2 feet, one day you touch it, third day you'll put it here. This sensitization, when it has to do it, one way is to take them. Second way is to use technologies like haptics, which will simulate pressure, temperature, all these kind of stuff. We are in the process of building such kind of tools using Peltier suites and all the stuff so that you get to have sensory integration. Are we stopping there? No. We will use more technologies to do virtual labs. We'll see sarcasm. We'll put checklists so that you don't forget what the previous speaker told, that is toxins and all the stuff. And the parents can go back to their work and just have to spend 15 minutes to 20 minutes a day. That means if you take a typical therapy session, the parent says sorry to office, then he drives down 30 minutes, then pick it from the kids from the school, another 30 minutes, go to therapy center, and the therapist says, oh, you came at 2 o'clock now, sit there, 15 minutes, then calm him down, 15 minutes, then therapy, 30 minutes, then bring him back, total 3-4 hours gone. In this kind of situation, you're doing 15 to 20 minutes. Can parent pursue her career? Can therapists get benefited out of it because therapy center and the therapist? So this way it's a win-win for everybody, and it's a digital democratization of autism therapy, I would like to call it. So with this, I want to pass on to my colleague, Dr. Harini, to talk about scientific evidence of digital technologies. Go ahead.
So, I wanted to know whether these technologies work, how much work has really gone into it, what the scientific world talks about it. So I looked into a study. This is a meta-analysis. It was published back in 2014. If you see, most of these kind of technology-based have been in the field from 2000. Prior to that, they were video-based modeling kind of systems. From 2000, they started talking about more higher functioning, higher advanced technologies. So in that, they looked into innovative technology-based interventions for autism spectrum. And if you see, I should point like this, yeah. So they looked into the analysis of pre and post studies. This is a systematic review, and they looked into computer programs, VR and robotics, and they found that the results of technology-based training, it showed a positive medium effect, and the confidence interval was well within the range. So what it says is conclusion, they said the meta-analysis supports for continuing development, evaluation and clinical usage of technology-based interventions for individuals. So it's a good evidence base to say that, well, we are on the right track, we don't have to worry. There may be a lot of myths, but let's look into this, and they looked into it, and they said pre and post studies, they were showing really good results. So further, I looked into serious games, okay, studying the effects of computer serious games on people with intellectual disability and autism spectrum disorder. And if you look into it, how did I do it? No.
You want me to help?
Right. So if you see, they looked into 54 studies. Actually, they have taken several, then excluded because of the criteria. And then the majority of the studies showed that the serious games had a positive impact on people with intellectual disabilities and autism spectrum. And they went on to say that more number of programs should be designed and evaluated using these serious games, because wherever, the thing is, these children are very good with computers. They pick quickly, they learn quickly, they get connected to the computers very quickly, because it's not anxiety provoking. It's at their own pace, they can take time, they can...
One minute, Dr. Harini. I want to ask one funny question to you. If you have a very stupid question to ask, will you ask your colleague in the office, or will you Google it out? Why? Because your colleague will feel you're stupid, actually, right? Google. That's why, in short, the computer-led judging, autism guys are very sensitive. That's why the way of learning from this is much, much better. Go ahead, ma'am. Sorry for summarizing.
So, they suggested that, sorry? No, the fun games are different to educational kind of games, which have an intent for training the children. So in the technical world, they call them as serious games. It's just to say that they are very serious about it. And moving on, sorry. So they suggested adaptable behavior skills for children with autism, and adaptable behaviors, intellectual functioning and social skills for intellectual disability children. Those kind of programs can be designed, and they are finding it a lot benefit from it. So then I went and looked what sort of learning would these people get connected to. And this suggested adaptable behavior skills for children with autism, and adaptable behaviors, intellectual functioning and social skills for intellectual disability children. Those kind of programs can be designed, and they are finding it promotes constant learning for these people. And they went on to recommend that positive engagement of teaching approaches for people with ASD. For that, whatever technology you are going to do, please add some sort of game to catch their attention. Okay, and user experience. So see how this is helping the child, or how the child is getting connected, rather than just making some sort of games for typical children. Rather, when you're using some games for them, be focused, and usability, accessibility. So all these points should be taken care while you're designing these kind of programs. Okay. So now question comes. From all the therapists, we don't recommend anyone to have screen time, 0 screen time. It's like a blanket rule. Now when you say that blanket rule, you focused and usability, accessibility, so all these points should be taken care while you're designing these kind of programs, okay? So now question comes from all the therapists. We don't recommend anyone to have screen time, 0 screen time. It's like a blanket rule. Now when you say that blanket rule, you focused and usability, accessibility, so all these points should be taken care while you're designing these kind of programs. This paper from Harvard, they looked into, there are some myths like people watching screen time or these kind of mobiles, the language development is slow, they're not doing so great, but the results showed that there is no such association or impact. And they went on to say, teachers and practitioners can support the quality of interactions children have with the mobile media. So beautifully they have said. It's like, don't just give it, okay? When the child is on it, let the teacher or parent help them to understand what they are watching rather than just looking at it and just getting in the whole lot of information. So it has to be interactive. Then it's going to be more fetching. And rather than
And anime is, to me, when I see him watching it, I see him watching it in a very obsessed way. And he can watch it for hours if he wants to.
Yeah.
So my husband and myself, initially following that language rule blindly, we would say if you watch anime, there will be consequences, and he would still do it. And he's, like most children of PhD, he's very compliant. And he's not someone who would really break the rules or bend the rules. So my husband and he can watch it for hours if he wants to.
Yeah.
So my husband and myself sit down with him and understand why for this one particular thing he breaks the rule all the time. And then we sat down with him. He's very verbal. He has a great vocabulary, but his language for communication is where he struggles. And he was very clear. He said, look, he goes to a mainstream school. He's in high school now. And he said, my day in school, because I'm different, is stressful. And I need to de-stress. And he was so clear on the fact that that half an hour, or it could even go up to 3 hours if he had his way, was his time to de-stress. And he put it in the same category as cycling every day, which we would say is so healthy and physical activity and do it.
Yeah.
And that's when we realized that this blanket is so hard.
Right.
Two are human beings who are square pegs in round holes and who need that time to de-stress, otherwise they will have a breakdown.
Correct.
And I think now it's anime, even if it has to be every day. This, I think I'm so loud. So now it's anime every day. But it is on school days, maybe 20 minutes,
Correct.
30 minutes, and then it's down to business. And it would be more on the weekends if he needs a longer break. But blanket rules do not work. I don't think they work in any situation. And I think it's so easy for therapists and for those on the outside to say, this is regressive, this is unhealthy, this needs to be removed, this needs to be eliminated. Speak to the young person who's in that situation. Why is he using this tool? So that's been my experience as a parent, and it's created a mind shift change for me.
So yeah, I totally get your world. When the therapist says you are doing this which you're not supposed to, then the guilt comes and then you will struggle, am I doing right or wrong?
Actually, actually, I want to say this. In India, we have something called Vedas. The Vedas, everybody cannot understand, so we convert into Puranas, which are like stories, actually, right? It's a entertaining way of learning Vedas, actually, or principles of it. Similarly, in autism, the two-way communication is a problem. That means the guy doesn't respond to when you ask for. That's a problem. So when you use the content in a nice way to develop that habit of two-way communication, that's the best way to happen, in a gamified manner actually. So I want to stress here, I spend a lot of time with my son. In fact, I build a visual model for his engineering classes, because in the class, whatever teacher was saying is going over his head in a big university of 23,000 students. So I build every subject, including Unix and database, organizational behavior, MIS, 32 videos for him of 3 hours, which he can do it like this, and he could learn quickly. Number 2, I created the sandboxes for each of these environment to practice. Whether it is my friends, it's organization behavior. If it's Unix and all, you build a Unix box. So I want to ask you one question to all of you. If, for example, I spend some 2 hours a day on a computer learning something very good in artificial intelligence, am I bad? No. But if I use the same 2 hours every day to play some game which is not going to help me evolve in my life, then something wrong. But if it is entertainment of 20-30 minutes, it's okay. So I want to tell you, this says that it's okay if you're using for good activity. When you're doing that game he's playing, if he's relaxing or learning some way, it is good.
Also, I would add to that, like your son is watching anime. One thing is there is entertainment. Beyond entertainment, there is also some social learning.
Yes.
Beyond that, there would be some kind of conflict resolution that the child learns. So even if it's a game, there's so much learning that happens from
Correct.
the game.
Yes.
Everything needs to be allowed. And I think what comes to me is we need to tap into the heart. Everybody has a heart. Rather than we have the person sitting
Absolutely. Agree with you.
parents know the best.
Agree with you. Perfectly agree with you. In fact, I'll tell you an anecdotal story. In fact, we'll show the movie ahead of time. In our games, every time it calls the kid by name. Okay? For example, my name is Udaya, I'm the kid. Udaya, look here, Udaya, click here, Udaya, do that, Udaya, do this. What happens, it forms association of the name in the kid's mind. There is a girl who came from UK, she is around 5-6 years old, her name is Yukta or Yagya. She came in COVID time and she could not go back from India. They were terrified when the authorities in High Commission of London asked her what's her name, she will not answer, because she's a kid with autism. She doesn't answer name that easily, actually, all of you know, right? So when she practiced this game for a couple of days, for 15 minutes a day, but the first time the parents were celebrating, every time they asked her name, she answered. And this is the power of 1 + 1 = 11. One is the computer like judging, so she feels comfortable. The second thing is the computer is calling her by name every time, hey Udaya, hey Yugda, like that. So when you add this 1 + 1, suddenly in her brain it will become 11, she answered. So gamified way is the best way to learn, and that's the way even all of us will be learning. And I want to ask you one thing. How many of you learn swimming by looking at a PowerPoint or a YouTube video? How many of you learn cycling by looking at YouTube and a PowerPoint? You have to jump into the pool, man. You have to get onto the cycle. So a kind of a thing, one step at a time, but we figure out a way how we can be done in a way, audiovisual, verbal, experiential, and immersive. And measuring the progress is very important. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah. So just wanted to say, I wanted to connect to the point your son was talking. Earlier, the other teenage girl was also saying why people talk about detoxing me. From 3 hours to 4.5 hours, you're making me, why the society is not detoxed from those kind of things. I think you took that step ahead, what your son was going through and what you could do a change for your child. I appreciate that. Right. So I went on to see the behavioral science, neuroscience and education in these kind of games or this kind of learning, how it happens. So if you see, we standardly know theory of mind. So in theory of mind, what it is these children, what each person thinks, they think it's not different. They think everyone thinks in the same way. Okay, and that difference, what each person thinks or what they might be thinking, what we predict, or they don't have that kind of mind reading. So that's simple version of theory of mind. So they think everyone follows the same written rule and they can't be different and everyone thinks in the same way. So now same Cohen, he went on to give about extreme male brain. The theory of in autism. So what it means is empathizing, it's a continuum, okay? On one side it's empathizing, on the other side is systematizing. So some people understand what the opposite person's thoughts, feelings are, and they behave in such a way to empathize and understand their perception. So that's the empathizing side of the continuum. And when you see the systematizing, these children with autism, they have to see one emotion, say anger, with frowning, with certain way of teeth grinding, see it in a systematic way over and over, then they learn this is anger. Whereas the others empathizing, they empathize and say and see that what they might be thinking, what they might be feeling, oh, this person is angry and I should do this, should not do this. Here they have to learn in different ways. And the functional MRI studies, they looked into it to see is it different. So when you look into that, the typical brain, when the functional MRI scans were done, it lit up in the frontal part, okay, and the amygdala. So the limbic system. How I describe is, so this is limbic system, okay. This is the brain which comes from animals. This is the I concept, and on it higher brain develops. And this is for planning and execution. This is like food, shelter, clothing, sex, emotions, like any animals. This starts from puberty. Okay, and prior to that is the survival skills. That's where children with autism still learn all those things, and then go on to learn the I concept, and then go on with this higher execution functionings where they have bit lag compared to their peer group. Okay, so here this limbic system has a seat called amygdala, which is the center for emotions. So when they did functional MRI, these areas were lit up in the typical people and these were not, and other areas were lit up, simply saying that when the same emotion is given or same thing is given, they are taking decisions from different parts of the brain, and these people are taking from different parts of the brain. So we have to be mindful that train them. People with autism are trainable. All we have to do is give them in the typical people, and these were not, and other areas were lit up, simply saying that when the same emotion is given or same thing is given, there are educational implications. So that's where we say they need antecedent interventions, like you prepare them and help them with the easy transitions, pattern-based techniques where they have to have certain ways of patterns, repetitions and rehearsals, the behavior rehearsals, they like to do in certain ways that they are confident. Positive reinforcement, again, it's not the reward that the positive reinforcement, it's that someone is watching and someone is giving that comfort that they are getting connected, okay. They also get connected, but in a different way. And learning characteristics of children with autism, some are visual learners, some are by modeling, some are by singing. So each person has a different way of learning. Yeah. No, these are from yeah. So why I got this is the tool which I'm going to talk about. We are going to map, we are giving different modalities in it, so each person can get connected, because we don't know which child responds to what. So when we give that program, okay, I'll talk in a minute, like we have different modalities: audio video modality, chatbot modality, and games modality. So the child, as they keep playing and moving up task 1, task 2, task 3, we understand, say in the 6 months to 1 year, what sort of a child this child learning pattern is. So in the future, when they go into school, when they go into college, then we can map and say, this modality works well, so we should have the learning translated or in this modality. So audio-visual, or through a game kind of a one, or through speaking. So we need to map that kind of one. So we need to understand what is their learning pattern. Udaya garu.
Very great. I'll just summarize it. We try to map up artificial intelligence on the right-hand side to the left-hand side. I'll quickly go through the machine learning part. We apply in ILP creation, individual learning plan creation, ILP assessment. That means every kid has a different way of doing things. So it's called individualized learning plan, which is the plan. And then we use, Then we use deep learning models and machine learning models to teach see and learn, that is show visually learning, verbally learning, and customized voice, tone detection, and all the stuff, which we'll show you shortly. And then we use augmented learning plan, which is the plan. And then we use, Then we use deep learning models and machine learning models to teach see and learn, that is show visually learning, verbally learn.
Even if they are at high risk, we encourage them as an early intervention, because some parents are hesitant to get a diagnosis, literally scared to see even any psychiatrist or pediatrician, because they will label their child. They will be getting school complaints and everything, but they still keep postponing. You know, one day when the teacher brings them into the school and say, you have to do something, if not, we are going to give TC to this child, then they come to me in a forced way and then they start therapies. So even for such kind of parents, what we are doing is, it's not the diagnosis, it's how the child is, just like your IEP, Individualized Education Program. So that education programs starts from, for a higher child, you know, in a school-going child. Here, even from 2 years, we have a certain list of questions, and we sit with the mother or father, caregiver, and we check, you know, do this assessment, and once the assessment is done, the system prompts the top goals which the child should be performing. And we have allowed the therapist to choose out of those top, because still she will be the one who understands or knows. So in this way, the machine itself prompts certain goals based on how the assessment is done, but the therapist still have a power to override if she thinks. Sometimes mother may overrate the child, like, oh, he does most of the times, or that's okay, because she's seeing only from her side. When the child is seen in the diagnostic setup, or, you know, out of the house scenario, social kind of interactions, father keeps prompting, no, he doesn't talk to my parents, he doesn't say hello to in the functions. So there may be some disparity, so we still give the choice, or you know, to the therapist to say what goals should go. Okay, and the rest of the things, as Udaya garu has explained. So what we did is, it was very difficult for us when we were developing. Okay, the therapist comes and thinks, okay, this child, I should work on this, and in a week she will say, this is not working, maybe I have to change. That day she's in a good mood, she thinks something else and something else. So it's the human brain is very dynamic, but we have to translate this in an algorithm, which is very difficult. So what we did was, we went into the milestones tracker. So we know from 0 to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, these kind of years, these kind of occupation therapy, speech therapy, social behaviors, emotional skills, social emotional skills, and which one is last, cognition. All this, what we have to develop, we made up the milestones, and our therapists, the team of therapists, we went ahead and chose what all the basic skills that are needed, okay, and we made 227 videos of how to train each task. We grouped up them into goals. So we will give the parent a goal, but these small, tiny tasks are what the child has to practice. Basically, we have developed a software where traditional kind of training can go into it, or ABA model can go into it. So whatever you do by your video modeling or your chatbot games, the technique what you use, the system is able to assess how many times the child is able to do first time right, how many prompts he is needing, and calculate, and based on the percentage of the performance, so goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, in each goal, again there will be tasks. So this child has to go through AV, audio video, chatbot game, audio video, chatbot game, audio video, chatbot game, and he has to take at least 3 times to pass, to say that yes, he has actually passed. So the system itself keeps taking him up, and that's how the goal progression happens. I know it's a bit complex. We have a full training module for therapists and parents to get more hands-on experience. So in just, we have ILP, we have all the tasks there. Based on what the child is not able to do, we give the mapping, and we have parent module as well, pivotal skills training, the basic ones, how to help the child. So first they get connected to the child, then help the child to get connected to the learning thing, and this learning then goes into generalization. This is the journey we want to see. Yeah?
Can you go to the journey itself?
Yeah, we'll say, yeah, we will, rather than saying we'll show, yeah. So we have these steps, registration, so the parent gets registered, and then the parent will register the child. There will be a consent form. We have child information form, CIF, we have ILP assessment, and then there will be a relationship manager who will be assigning to a therapist. Now the therapist, she is also trained, qualified on our product. She will assign goals. Then comes the 4th point where now the parent will log in, help the child. Before they help the child, they should know what is the child gonna see, what video. So when we did a pilot study back in 2020, some parents said they wanted to understand what it is. Basically, our tool is to empower the parents. So in this process, they wanted to understand what is the objective of the video, what is the prerequisite, what is that I should look into this video, help my child. So that's the objective video. And she prepares herself, goes to the play button when the child is very happy, in the best mood. So she will bring the child and she will sit down and help the child, okay, and goes through the AV, audio video, then the chatbot, then the game, and then you get a personalized graph each day. The child's progress of 10% and 20%, mother may not be able to say immediately of the eye contact that has improved from 2 seconds to 4 seconds or 5 seconds. But the graphs and all these things will be able to pick up that minute ones. And HBA, yeah, and postnet JIT, right. I know.
We'll make it fast so that...
We will make it faster because we don't want people to miss out.
The beauty of this one is it is connecting the therapists and the parents and an organization and the kid together. So let's play how you teach something, your audio video thing, a skill.
So this is a story which goes around a middle class family where the child with father, mother, teacher and friends.
Let's listen.
So they will show a small clip, stop, ask for a question, give 3 answers. He's Mr. Guru. So these are all the techniques that a therapist should be doing, and that's what we are telling the parent as well. So now the mother picks up a painting activity because this child is not giving any eye contact. So she makes different noises, tries to grab the child's attention, and then she starts painting. At every point, there will be these interactive questions, It's level 3 if there are 3 questions. If the child is failing 2 times, then we are leveling down to level 2. So level 2, again, it will give 2 options. If the child is not able to do, it will level down to level 1. If still child is not able to do, then the child will go to level 0, where it will be a plain video. So we are doing research in Rainbow Hospital, and parents have been very interactive with us, and they have asked us, like, can we have a pause button, can we go and do the manual, which is not assessing. So now this child gets interested in painting, so starts looking at the mother, starts painting. So it's a way of getting connected to this child in a playful way. And Mr. Guru is a character which is like, he is Mr. Guru. So who keeps prompting, and he will get connected to the child outside.
All of you have seen, as a parent I'm going to talk right now.
So it keeps giving the prompts. If the child is not pressing, doing anything, it goes blinking, and when the child does, it says, good job, continue. So it's reinforcing the child. So all this is picked up at the back end, the data will be collected, and it will score how much this child has passed based on first time rights or fails and all this. So Mr. Guru, we have a parent who has who took a tab, cleared all the apps and just only this one. And now the child has learned, whenever the mother holds the tab, he's saying, Mr. Guru, hello my friend. He's starting to express because he's getting connected with these videos. And the mother is also partnering with the school teacher. So whenever she goes to the school, she's telling the teacher, as soon as my boy comes in, you smile and call him by name and then smile. So he will smile. She's partnering with the children's, the boys' friends as well. Whenever you're playing, call the name, because every time we insist, call the name and question. So you call the name and shoot the question. So they are understanding this technique. So these are the people who are living interiors of India, where there's not many therapies. So those people are religiously following. They are giving good feedback. My child is sitting, my child is listening. So they are very happy with the progress. So, chatbot. So that's the practice mode, and that's the assessment mode. So in this, the parents came back to us. We are doing research in Rainbow Hospital, and we conduct at least 2 to 3 parent training sessions in a week. And one of the parent was, he was the one who was saying, I want a pause button so I can first explain to my child, and then when the child is ready, I want to press on that start button, because initially we didn't give, unless they have used and they have noticed that we were very happy that they were following what we have made. So it was very beautiful. And at the beginning also, if you could see, there was a play button which was the assessment mode and which was the manual mode. Okay, so whatever the child plays in the assessment mode, that will be scored. The manual or the practice is just for practice. Initially we gave practice after passing 50%, but they asked, can we have it before, because we want to first practice, then come back for the assessment, because parents didn't want to lose or didn't want the child to fail in it. So they want to first practice, make the child practice, then come into the assessment mode, because only in the assessment mode progression happens. Right. Animation. Yeah, we wanted to keep as much close as to the human part, but still animation works, so we have got these games as well. So this is a emotion games where the child has to recognize the emotion and has to keep playing. So usually a AV video comes, whatever is in the AV video, the chatbot will ask the similar questions and the same theme will be carried into the game. So all three modalities will talk the same content. So towards the end it gives scoreboard, eye gaze. Now the child gets a tick, because child has focused on the tiger for certain seconds. The child has to focus at least 5 to 10 seconds before the system can give a tick mark. So the animal sounds can prompt them. So people liked those kind of animal games. Whenever it was there, they used to run and come to see that. So in that way, the eye gaze was tracked.
I just want to say here, these are all technologies. It's a computer vision using deep learning models. And when I come to the chatbot, it uses the speech to text, text to speech. In fact, we did so much of study to figure out which is the best algorithms to represent human voice much better. Yesterday I saw some robotic voice. It's a garble, even I can't understand. So we came with models. The voice is so perfect. And with the flick of a button, we can change the languages actually. It can speak up to 70 plus languages in all these things.
Yeah. Just pause 1 second, ma. So as soon as that game comes, the camera opens. Excellent. So first we want them to focus on the inanimate or the animal kind of pictures, models, and then slowly we want to generalize. So whenever those kind of games, videos are done, we give a follow-up of home-based activity for the parent. So this home-based activity, they give variations how the mother can help, like if they have a toy, the mother says, the home-based activity, they get a narration saying, like for the mothers, when there is a tiger one, just say, the tiger sound, so the child can look and get connected. So whatever are there in the child's home environment, by this home-based activities, we ask the parent to translate. See, the research says that no matter, even if you are good at computers, doing all the puzzles, doing all the things. Unless generalization happens, the actual generalization doesn't happen. We knew this in our pilot study, and that is where we have come up with objective videos for the parent, home-based videos as well for generalization. So the parent should be empowered. Like what she's seeing, she has to translate it in her day-to-day for the child, and then only the generalization helps. So what she sees, that tiger, whenever there is a picture of a tiger, whenever she's reading a book, getting his attention, and then slowly he will also say, oh. So that way he is also learning. So here the main aim is to get his attention in whatever way technology we can use.
I want to ask you one small quiz to you, a prize for you. How many times the kid has marked right, he looked at the animal right? How many times in the whole video? Once or twice or thrice. How many times the tick mark has come? 3? The prize goes for you. The point is, if you try to do typical therapy, can you mark how many times the kid has looked at the contact and draw a graph over a period of time, how his eye contact improved? You can never do it. Here, this data will help you how he is improving his eye contact in a gamified manner. Okay, if you see the chatbot, you saw a small doll. In the morning, I saw Sana Sharif, an excellent speech audiologist from Dubai. She talks about when you teach speech, the speech forms along with visualization. You show a picture and then speech, it sticks better. So we do the same thing. So without knowing or with knowing, we are following all the principles of all the therapists and the parents, and we'll take away the parents' burden of writing down how many times he looked at the screen properly. Make sense?
Right.
Yeah, you like it? No claps? He's not giving claps, yeah.
Out of curiosity, so this is a wonderful idea. What I was thinking is a lot of involvement of the parents in creating also part of animation. So in your research, have you come across parents who are getting maybe perhaps too much of work on them also?
Yeah.
Because this seems like a lot of work from the parents.
No. This is very less work on the parents, because once you do the play button, initially you have to sit with it, what we have seen, maybe you can correct me.
Right.
After initial session, that day is hooked like crazy. So in fact, you are taking away so much effort, and first of all, guilt. Every parent, including me, have a guilt that we are not able to take time to teach them. And a therapist has a guilt that once I send this guy home, I'm not able to have a control on him. Suddenly I'm solving 2 problems at one go without stealing a lot of time from his school time. Okay? Once I understand how he learns using all the data, I can create his education curriculum in the same way so that he continue to learn actually. Go ahead.
Right. So this is not just for parents. The therapists can also help the child in helping, say in schools where there are inclusion schools and they want to help. Not every school supporting person is highly qualified to train OT, to train speech, to train the social emotions. So this is a tool for these people. That's what we aim for schools as well, to integrate into their curriculum, so they can start teaching them early on as well. And we know some parents not just sending 1 hour for the therapy, for the rest of the 23 hours they are thinking, what can I do? So there are some parents who are driven, and if they start seeing it as a they are learning, then it becomes problem. If they see that's enjoying, then both of them will have a good time. Probably initially understanding the system. That's why we are continuously giving them parent training sessions. Whenever they can come back and they can do better. We are giving them a full module as well, so they can get connected. Right, I know. So tone detection. Can you go back to tone detection, please? Yeah. So, in this, what it is tone detection. Sometimes children with autism, they speak loud. They don't know in which area how to speak. So in a classroom, it has to be soft. When grandmother is sleeping, it should be in a whisper. When they're in library, whisper. And when they're out in the party, it is loud. So we are giving them scenarios and we are teaching them hi, good morning, thank you, this kind of common words. And the child is asked to say. So it takes the answer, and whenever it reaches the soft volume, the tone, then the computer says, it's a good job, you did it. So they understand, by repetition, how much toning down or toning up they should be able to do it.
I want to tell you, for several things you have algorithms ready-made available on the internet. Unfortunately, did you ever, anybody told you, to all of you, in a party you should speak loud, in a funeral procession you should whisper, and in a class you speak softly? Nobody. So that's why our artificial intelligence companies don't make algorithms for these things. So this is a homegrown algorithm from our stable actually. So that's why we use some algorithm from outside, some we invent ourselves, so that these 73 million people, nobody want to address their needs out of the 7.3 billion we have. That's why Cognitive Body is dedicated to develop algorithms. This kind of algorithm is not available on the internet to detect what kind of a tone you should speak to. So it can detect. You can try it out, whisper, it will tell you whispered actually. Go ahead.
So, can we play it? Yeah. So this is for facial emotion.
Can you stop here? Yeah. I want to tell a story here. Story is right. My son, when he was 16, he used to run from the class. I asked him, why you run from the class? No, that guy looks at me very angrily. He moved from a normal school to a college kind of a situation. I asked him, why do you run? He says, that guy looks at me in an angry way. Then I go to that guy and say, did you look at my son in an angry way? He said, regular school. The guy said, no, uncle, I was only be friendly to him. So then we figured out he doesn't understand at 16 what is anger and what is a sad and what is a smile. We have to spend close to $2,000 to get to a CBT therapist to tell him what is anger and what is this thing. We told him if it forms a triangle here, then it's anger actually. So what will happen here is this game, you send a family photos picture of a kid, the back-end AI will figure out it's a smile or a sad or a surprise, and the kid will answer. If it matches, you're great. It teaches you what I spent $2,000 and multiple visits to the doctor in a small way. It teaches you what is this, and you can use your family pictures. Go ahead.
Yeah. You can continue playing. So here we can train the child's grandmother, grandfather, kind of a smile. Sometimes we can keep his own photo as well to say what is the emotion. So helping him to understand, naming the emotions and all this. Right, next one. Can we start this?
Kinesthetic learning.
So we know that yoga, our rich heritage, there is a lot to learn. There is a lot of science going in. So we wanted to use this module. So here you can see when the person comes into the position, he gets a green line. When he's out of position, he's white. So the current scores, he has to reach up to 100. Whenever he's in green, the scores come up, that he is within the correct line. And then if you see, there is a post time, 1 second. So if you can see here the time, the child has to maintain up to 10 seconds, a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So picture. So what happens is, the other side, they have given a pose where the child should see and imitate. And the person here, it's actually a video, the child will stand in front and the points, the joint points will be picked up by the machine of the child. So it's their image. Now, however they move, that's how it moves. Now, when they are in white, yeah. Right. Right. I think that comes at a higher level. So first we work on the basic ones and then we keep giving. Basically, it's not like we want to teach them yoga, but before they go on to the session, we want to give them something. So, something, so the parent can, get their attention, calm their hyperactivity, and then slowly come and do the thing. So when they start doing it, it gives a star. It says, good job. So they get a clap, they get like a cup, and they get 1 star. So we ask them to get 5 stars. So per day, or you can play it more number, but we want them to play at least for 5, so they get the 5 stars. And that helps them then to go on to the other learning. So,
Yeah, in fact, we can modulate this, we can bias it to make it even at the lower level of functionality. In fact, the previous speaker talked about the boss pose, right? All of you have done it, right? Like this?
boss pose.
Okay? You can make that one happen with this kind of a technology. And one more thing I forgot to tell you in the chat, but in my childhood, or anybody for that matter, when you're learning, when you say, what do you want? You say water, right? When you're grown up. But when you're a kid, actually, of 3 to 4 years old, you call water with 2, 3 different names. Does it happen in your culture as well? Use it something baba, something. So in our chatbot, we have a way of feeding customized words. For example, instead of water, you say wawa. Still it says good job. Because our game of the game is not to teach him the speech, improve his ability to interact and develop that confidence actually. So we have an ability to keep the customized words as well. We missed that point, we want to tell you that.
So next comes you had a question? Anyone had a question? No. Okay.
Go ahead.
So just in time. So this is just in time is like a calendar event, okay? Going for a birthday party or going out for a park. You teach the child how to behave and everything, but when they are actually going, they may forget. So it's important, like one child, when they were regularly going to school, she remembered that she should not feel jealous. She was an 11th class open school child. So for her, every day in the morning they have to say, don't worry about others, it's okay. So that kind of a simple training is important. So now what we did was, when the child has to go for a birthday party, the calendar event will be there, so the parent can go click on the event. So now it comes up saying that your child has 11 days or 21 days to practice this. So this kind of event comes. Now we have done, this is augmented reality, where it covers, or there is a natural environment, and the technology goes and uses the real-time situation. So here we have done for park. You can play it, please. Thank you.
It make him going to school better.
So it has I, which is like information. When there is a question mark, there is a question. And when there is a video, they can go and play on it. So it asks these interactive questions. So next time when the mother takes, they will say, okay, what do you do here? You stand in a line. We buy a ticket. And then what we do? We go inside. So those steps, what mother tries to show and do it, going to dentist, visiting grandmother's house or birthday party, all are in videos. So they selected, naughty child selected roam around. So the system says, oh no, you should not. So it tries to be interactive. So how to come in, there is a video as well. So at each point they have made a detailed one, so the child knows how to go, what to do in a systematic way.
Let's enter into the park.
Now they go into it. There's a lot to this video. They have gone into every detail. They have done everything. So what do? So they click on the question mark.
Do you want to see the park map?
So when you go inside, you need a map to understand which way to go, what you want to see. Let's enter into the park. So that's how it's all showing. And then
it can enact an airport, ATM, bank, hospital.
So each part we can make it customized. Yeah.
So this kind of activity, have you tested the practical ability once they are in a simulation and they go to the actual environment without the visual cues? Are they able to follow what they do on the AI?
See, again, what we are showing is at each point what has to be done. It's again the mother. Okay, what do you do at the entrance? What did you see? Okay, what do you do here? What is this? Where do we see the map? Where is the index? So it's important to translate. So because we can't make many models of, there may be several parts, there may be different ways, but they have to understand there are steps in it. As far as we are teaching the steps, they should be good, and that's the aim of generalization.
I want to say, have you seen Baby's Day Out?
Baby's Day Out, yeah.
What the mother does is show a social story of going to circus or something like that. This is a social story, which is one of the methods of teaching autistic kids actually, so that they get used to a new environment, like a school or a hospital, anything like that. Make sense?
So if they only learn for that video, it becomes very difficult. At the end of the day, we want them to generalize, use the skills, the steps, and go and use it anywhere.
By this time you figured out, right, who is doctor here and who is a guy who tells the stories? Because I tell Baby's Day Out, she tells science actually. Yeah. Go to the next slide.
Yeah.
I think it's wrong.
You can move on
Next
to the next
slide,
slide.
please.
Oh, I'll do it, sorry. Yeah. So these are some of the parent feedback, that the eye contact is improving, child is settling, they could see some improvement, the child is playing. We didn't put up all the parental feedback, and these are the graphs, what we could see, whoever are playing, the more number of hours they are investing into it, definitely the parents are happy. Now, how many hours each parent invests or the therapy invests, that's for us.
Can I borrow that?
Yeah, thank you.
These are simple graphs. We have more complex graphs, very nice ones. So on the time axis, you can see the months. On this axis, you can see the modalities actually. So we have a way to figure out how we're learning on social, behavioral, how we're learning on chatbots and all the stuff. We can completely give you a history of timeline on what day, what task he played, how many points he got, how is his curve, which modality he is learning. As a parent, don't you want to know? As a therapist, don't you want to know? The kid is how he learns. Don't you want to know which task he is doing better? Don't you want to know which task is like a fish to the water so we can design future career for him? Once you know how he learns, once you know which modality he learns, once you know which task is fish to the water, you can design his future career for him in that way so that he will ace everybody out here actually. So that's the power of the data. So that the parent can spend more time in figuring out what to do, therapist can do more time to figure out what to do. Okay, right? And all of you as a therapist, I want to ask you one question. Do you want to help the community at large? For example, Maya is there. Maya is in Abu Dhabi. She wants to help Tunisia. She can help with this kind of a tool. So this way you democratize the whole place and give power to therapists and parents. I'm not saying we conquered everything. We take all the inputs from you and we feed it more and more, we'll build more and more things, including virtual labs, education content, so that the kids who have the magic abilities within them, they can bring significant value. Thus, anybody from government here? My son is a tax burden had I not spent time with him. On my India government, probably the government would have paid around 5,000 rupees a month forever in the life. But today he's a tax burden. He's not a tax burden, he's a tax asset, because we build a business. Around it, we are helping globally, and he's contributing economy by so many people working with us, AI experts, doctors, and all the stuff. So we all have high aspiration for our kids, both at the governmental level, therapist level, and the parent level. With high aspiration, we can make it happen with this kind of a tools which enable you to happen and give him a lot of opportunities to explore and make them happen in a digital way. And it doesn't take away the power of therapists. A lot of things can be done by therapists. It's only enabling tool.
You're right.
Yep.
So the point I wanted to add was, here the therapists, they have a therapist dashboard. They log into it. They will have all the children, so they can look into it. Children who are playing well, they will be in green zone. Some out of the 3 goals, they may not be doing 1 goal better, they will be in amber. And there may be some children who are not so much doing well, they may go into red. All the 3 goals, they're struggling. So in the morning, they log in and they see, okay, these parents are doing good, I don't have to worry about the green, I have to focus on the red, then come to amber. So there is a system built in. And now you have a facility there. So you're not spending the same hours physically on all these children. Rather, you will be spending remotely. You will be talking to this mother, asking what is the problem, give some tips how to change, ask them the videos. So there is an option for the mother from the other end to upload, and you can review and you can make suggestions. You can give frequently asked questions. We have all the list, and other techniques, what you think that the parent and the child will need. Because sometimes, though the home-based activity, it says they may not be doing the right way. So when you ask the video, you can look into it, you can make suggestions. So what happens is, spending, say, every week you spend 5 hours with a kid. So you're spending 20 physical hours. Instead, if you are spending less number of hours, then you can see more number of children, cover more geographic area. So you can go into more interiors, people who are very far, who are, once you are with this, you can have a client in Australia, you can have a client in Canada. So in that way, you will be reaching more geographic areas and be able to, provide the therapy, advise, and still look into things.
I think finally, all of us are in box pose now. Oh yeah, right?
So, what do you all think about this? Is it happening? Is it, I'm not sure. What do you think? Thank you. Grand. Thanks for that. Right.
So what I also really appreciate is that these videos have cultural relevance, because the setting, the accent, the way the mother looks, the way the house looks, it has a cultural relevance.
Right.
And I do feel the need for whether it's assessments, whether it is therapy, to be culturally relevant. Because when I take my son, for example, every 2 years to get his psychological evaluation done, and they had me a parent form to tick the boxes for his independent living skills, and in that parent form, they've been asking me for the last 10 years whether he can make his own bed, wash his own dishes, go to the bus stop. And I come from Karachi, Pakistan, where children don't make their own beds or wash their own dishes or go to the bus stop.
Right.
I have to take note. And those no's are not because my child is or isn't independent, but it's because those questions are not culturally
Correct.
relevant. And when a lot of these
Excellent. So we appreciate that. Uday Garu has a full 60 languages. He is ready with everything. He can convert into any language. You name it, he has got it. He has got Synthesia, who can speak, objective videos and home-based activities for the parents, not for the child. For the child friend, we are still having videos, and we are also making internationalization where it can be more connecting to the culture specific, and also the scripts. Some of them we are very mindful, so we are having therapists who are culture specific as well. For that language, say Arabic, we are aiming for that translation. We are going for Hindi translation. Local languages, Telugu, Bengali, Tamil. So we have a queue of all this. So it reaches those people, even though we have used very simple English language, very short sentences, some mothers are still struggling. So we are let's do the Hindi version, Telugu version. So yeah.
I want to say one thing. When we build for Arabic, we'll bring Arabic actors, Arabic customs, everything Arabic, so that it's good for them. We may use English also, but Arabic culture will be there. If you go to US, it will be US. If you go to Africa, it will be Africa. Because why we want to do that way is autistic kids, they have to get inclusion within their cultures. That's what we do. So we promise you one thing. Last point I want to touch upon, I think we're done. I'll ask last point. When you try to do this kind of a stuff, you require money. And once we do artificial intelligence based stuff, the marginal cost of supporting one more kid is very minimal. That way we can really democratize autism care actually. But in the process of doing it, I'm a father, I'm not too rich, I'm okay, but not too rich. And there are people who help along the way. And I would like to thank Dr. Ravindranath Garu here. He's a very good investor and he's a global hospital chairman, a multimillionaire. But he came forward and said, he doesn't have an autism connection, but he said, I'll support you, go all the way, and his dream is helping people around the globe. I want to say thanks to him.
He's a liver transplant surgeon.
Thank you. Sorry guys, we kept you awaiting. I'm sorry about it.
Thanks for listening and the interactive questions.
Hello everyone, it's really nice to be here and we're going to have Dr. Temple with us live right now. Dr. Temple does not need an introduction. Can you tell I'm one of the biggest fans here? But Dr. Richard will introduce her.
No, it's my great pleasure and privilege to introduce Dr. Temple Grandin. Dr. Grandin is an American academician, animal behaviorist, and internationally renowned spokesperson for autism spectrum disorder. Dr. Grandin is one of the first autistic people to demonstrate the insights that she has gained from her personal experience of autism. She is currently a faculty member with Animal Sciences in the College of Agricultural Sciences at Colorado State University. Based on her experience, Grandin advocates early intervention to address autism and support teachers and professionals who can redirect children and adults in fruitful decisions and directions. She has been an outspoken proponent of animal rights and the neurodiversity movements. In 2010, Temple Grandin was listed as one of the 10 most influential people in the world by Time 100, which named her in the Heroes category. In 2011, she received a double Helix Medal and has received many honorary degrees from many universities, including McGill, Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, Carnegie Mellon, etc. Grandin has been featured on many media programs. She was the subject of an Emmy and Golden Globe winning biographical film, Temple Grandin. In 2018, Grandin was featured in the documentary This Business of Autism, which explored autism employment and the success of autism employers. She has been written up in Time, People magazine, Discover, Forbes, and the New York Times. She is best known for designing the Hug Machine, which is a deep pressure gadget planned to calm extremely sensitive people, which are ordinary people with autism. And I know her personally, working with her as a colleague to sequence her entire genome, to read the chromosomes from end to end and make sense of that as to how they caused her condition and how they continue to influence her life. And I'll never forget working with her to do that. And if you're interested in what we found out, come to my lecture tomorrow at 11 something. So introduce Dr. Grandin.
Well, it's good to be here. And also a lot of emphasis on skills like getting dressed, combing your hair, brushing your teeth, eating with utensils. Well, one little tip with these kids, you have to give them time to respond. They're like a phone that's only got one bar of service. And slow down when you talk to them. And when the grown-ups talked fast, it went to gibberish. Can you put the next slide up, please? Now, the thing about autism is it goes all the way from Einstein, who had no speech until age 3, to somebody who has much more severe autism when they become nonverbal. But some of the ones that are nonverbal can learn to type independently. But a brain can be more social emotional, or a brain can be more interested in what they do. And having an interesting career has been very important to me. I'm really happy that I'm a professor. I've got graduate students and I've done a lot of research in animal behavior. I have 3 graduate students that have become university professors. I'm very, very happy about that. So a brain can be more social emotional, or a brain can be more interested sort of in what they do. This is why I think it's important to get kids out doing interesting things. Some of these kids that get addicted to video games, one of the ways to get them off the video games is have them fix motorcycles, have them fix cars. It's the one thing that's worked. They find out that maybe fixing those motorcycles is much more interesting than the video games. And that's something that can turn into a career. And it's a skill that other people want. Let's go to the next slide. Shows a picture of Thomas Edison. He would probably be autistic today. He dropped out of school. Now, fortunately, he had a mentor. And he had a mentor that taught him how to use the telegraph. It's really important for students to get exposed to things. I was not originally in the cattle industry. I got exposed to it as a teenager. And I had very good teachers and mentors, starting with my mother when I was very young. She was always pushing me to do new things. She encouraged my ability in art. I had a wonderful primary school teacher. I had a wonderful science teacher who got me interested in studying with all kinds of interesting projects to do. Good teachers are so important. Let's go to the next slide. There's Einstein. He would probably be in an autism program today. Let's go to the next slide. Put the next slide up, please. Now, I'm a kind of a NASA fan. And I got 5 years ago, I got a chance to go visit visit this launch pad. This was like so much fun. And what I learned when I went there is the astronauts, they had we call it the right stuff, but they were people that had Tourette syndrome, that were dyslexia. They were building the launch pad. They were designing control rooms. There were people there at NASA, really smart people that were, some of them probably were on the autism spectrum. I've been to many, many NASA sites. And if you look at the old videos of going to the moon, look at the people in that control room. I think there was quite a few autistic people there. And they were really happy that they got to be involved in that project. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I've got emotions, but I get emotional over interesting stuff I do. And Voyager spacecraft now is 45 years old. The scientists are in their 80s now. They are still tracking it. They've managed to keep it going. For a long time, they had to work out of a storefront next to a McDonald's, but they kept it operating with no funds. And I can get really into that because it's so cool what they're doing. They're still learning from this spacecraft that's 45 years old. Let's go to the next slide. past Saturn. We can go to the next slide. And then you've got the techies down there that keep that antenna going. Yeah, they probably have to do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got a chance to sit at the original mission control desk. That was really, really cool. Go to the next slide. Now, let's not get hung up on the labels. Autism is this big spectrum. And the problem with autism is they keep changing the diagnosis. Originally, maybe 30 years ago or so, you had to have speech delay to be labeled autistic. And then they added Asperger's syndrome, where you could be socially awkward with no speech delay. And then in 2013, they merged everything together. And you've got a spectrum that's going from Einstein to somebody that may have much more severe problems. But I can't emphasize enough on working with the little kids, because when I was 3, I looked very, very severe. And we can go to the next slide. I have grandparents that come up to me all the time, and they find out they're autistic when the kids get diagnosed. That just happens all the time. And sometimes adults later in life getting diagnosed helps them with their relationships. But I'm concerned that too many fully verbal, smart kids on the spectrum get so hung up on the label, the parents get hung up on the label, that the kid's not learning basic skills like shopping, learning how to save money, doing laundry, just very, very basic things. Another big problem I'm seeing is not making the transition into the world of work. Work skills are not the same skills as academic skills. We need to start children when they're 11 years old, maybe volunteering at a fruit stand or something like that, where they learn how to work for somebody outside the family on a schedule. Let's go to the next slide. Now that's me having a real fun time at the vehicle assembly building. We'll show another slide. All the cool stuff I got to go do there, like go up on the roof and I wasn't supposed to. That was really cool. All right, let's just get back to the getting important stuff in autism. Let's talk about some basic issues here. Sudden surprises scare. Okay, let's say a child's going to go to a new school. We'll try to visit it maybe before they go there, or look at the website. The other thing that's difficult for a lot of individuals with autism is multitasking, when you rapidly have to multitask. But we've got to get these kids out doing stuff. We've just got to do that. And I was brought up in the 50s, and we used a method, I call it teachable moments. So let's say I took my drink right here, and I stirred it with my finger. That's bad table manners. Now, my mother, instead of saying no, she would say, use the spoon. People think it's disgusting when you put your finger in the cup. She would give the instruction instead of saying no. That was my generation, a method of teaching social skills. And social skills were taught in a much more structured manner than they are today. We need to limit the screen time, the phones and the computers, to about an hour a day. And we need to get kids out doing things. Today, I saw some kids out playing in the playground that's near my house, and that's the kind of stuff that kids should be doing. Let's go to the next slide. So there's the teacher there working with a really young kid. And the thing I have found on very young children's programs, some teachers just have the ability to work with these little kids. Now, if you've got a little kid that's not talking, the worst thing you can do is let them just sit and play with a phone all day. That's the worst thing you can do. You need to get an effective teacher working with them. And I find some teachers have the ability and some don't. Let's go to the next slide. Teaching turn taking. That was done with me with board games. You have to learn how to wait. It's something that's very important for young autistic children to learn how to wait. And we'll go on to the next slide. Teachable moments. We already talked about that. You don't yell and say, stop it. You give the instruction and the reason why. Let's go to the next slide. You need to limit the video games. One of the things that I was not allowed to do when I was in high school was just become a recluse in my room. I was not a good student. I was a terrible student, but I still had to attend to classes. Too many of these kids are just getting on the electronics and just staying in their room, playing video games all day, and they're not getting wonderful jobs in the video game industry. And if they were getting wonderful jobs in the video game industry, I'd be a lot more positive about it. But some young adults, again, addicted to video games, the one thing that was successful in getting them off of it was working on motors and engines. And they found out that they were more interesting than the video games. Let's go to the next slide. Now, my mother would always stretch me to do new things, but she always gave me a choice. You know, we could go to this store or that store, or you could do this activity or some other activity. Always giving choices. You can do your homework when you get home from school, or you can do your homework after dinner. Giving some choices. And one of the things that helped me, being raised in the 50s, is we had sit-down dinners. And, you know, my sister and my parents would take turns telling about their day. Unfortunately, in some families, that's not happening. And this was part of getting me to be a lot more social. And you can learn business social. Another thing that was done in my family is when we were 7 or 8 years old, and it was done with most of the families of my generation, is when I was a little kid, I had to dress up in my good clothes when the parents had a party. And I had to serve the snacks. I had to shake hands with them, learn how to talk to them. Really, really good social training. Let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about sensory issues. Sensory issues are really real. And loud sounds like a school bell or a hairdryer or maybe a vacuum cleaner would hurt my ears. Now, one of the ways to help a child to tolerate these sounds is to let the child play with the vacuum cleaner, where they turn it on. They turn the hairdryer on. And when the child turns the dreaded noisy thing on, they often get to where they can tolerate it better because they are controlling it. Now, there's some kids wearing headphones all the time. And the problem is, if you wear headphones all the time, and that's on the next slide, the sound sensitivity may get worse. So what you want to do is have them with you. You can have them in your backpack. So they're with you. They give you control. You've got them with you. But then you try not to wear them. Because I've heard stories where they were wearing headphones all the time and the child got so sensitive, he couldn't tolerate quiet conversation at the dining room table. But sensory problems really are real. Sensory integration methods can be helpful. There's a paper you can look up online that's called Environmental Enrichment is an Effective Treatment for Autism. And it's a method where you stimulate 2 senses at the same time. Maybe touch a warm coffee cup and then smell some aromatherapy. So you're stimulating 2 senses at the same time. And the title of the paper is Environmental Enrichment, an Effective Treatment for Autism. Now, let's say we have a nonverbal older child or adult and problems with maybe destructive behavior or hitting. The first thing with somebody who cannot speak is give them a way to communicate. Not being able to communicate is totally frustrating. Also, you have to rule out, do they have a painful medical problem that they can't tell you about? That's the first thing you need to make sure they don't have acid reflux. I had acid reflux last night because I ate some hot sauce I wish I hadn't eaten. And my stomach was hurting last night. But the sensory overload, if they have a meltdown or outburst in a busy, noisy store, that is probably sensory overload. But we've also got to give them a way to communicate. That is just super, super important. There's a next slide just shows that sensory symptoms are part of the neurobiology of autism. Now, when I was a little kid, they tested me for 2 things, deafness and epilepsy. Now, I could pass the deafness test, but the problem is my ability to hear auditory details impaired. Like if the grown-ups talked fast, it was when adults talked fast, it's like, blah, 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 blah. That's what it sounded like. Because I didn't hear the hard consonant sounds. Like if someone said the word cat and they said it fast, I would hear ah. So my speech teacher would say cat ta, or she'd hold up a cup and she'd say cup pa. And she switched back and forth between saying cup and cup, because if people talked fast, then all I heard were the vowel sounds. Stretch out and enunciate the consonants, and sometimes hearing would kind of cut in and out like a bad mobile phone connection. There's kind of three ways that the brain can have a problem with language. Not hearing the auditory detail, where I'm hearing gibberish, trouble with getting my speech out, expressive. And then the next slide, I talk about echolalic children. And echolalic children, they have good speech and they will recite an entire movie script. But the problem is they don't know what the movie script means. That's the problem. So in Life Animated, what these parents did is this child had memorized Disney movie, and they picked out phrases in the movie that could be used in real life. And then their son started to figure out that words had meaning. So an echolalic kid, you've got to teach them that all this language they're yakking out has meaning. So there's kind of three ways the brain can be messed up. The next slide talks about attention shifting slowness. Now, if I was a computer, I've got a very, very small, I'm an Intel 286. I mean, if you're a computer geek, that's the first chip. But I have huge memory. Attention shifting slowness. This is why you have to give the child time to respond. The next slide shows attention shifting slowness. It's an old Ami Klin slide, and look at how the normal person's looking at the eyes. But the other more important thing in this slide is look at how many times the normal person looked back and forth compared to the autistic person who's trying to lip read. Attention shifting slowness. All right, now let's look at things where this could cause a problem at work. I want to see these kids get employed, and I want to avoid the jobs such as rapid multitasking at a McDonald's takeout window. That would be a very bad job. Another problem is I don't have any working memory. So if let's say I have to shut down the cash register at night at a store, and then maybe 5 or 6 steps, I need to write them down. I need to write the steps down like a pilot's checklist. Long yakety-yak strings of verbal information do not work with me. Let me make a pilot's checklist. Okay, and if you don't want to disclose autism, just say to your employer, pilots need a checklist. I need one too. And for pilots, it's mandatory. In every country in the world, pilots have to use checklists. Now, I'm talking about giving the child time to respond. When I was 5 years old in school, we had a little assignment where we had to name the pictures that began with B as in beautiful. So I called the suitcase a bag, and the teacher marked it wrong. And she didn't give me time to explain that in our house, they weren't suitcases, they were bags. And that was very, very frustrating for me. In the next slide, we're going to be talking about some visual problems. I don't have visual processing problems, but some individuals do. And vision might break up similar to a migraine headache. Or this next slide that shows an image that's breaking up. Seeing probably wouldn't be a primary sense if that's the way things look like. And this may explain why a number of people that do not speak touch and smell things, because those senses provide accurate information. And we'll go on to the next slide that shows an escalator. Now, in your brain, you have the eyes that work like a camera, but then in the back of the brain, there's circuits that assemble the graphics file for shape, color, motion, and texture. And if there's something wrong with those circuits, print may jiggle on the page when you try to read. These kids are often terrified of escalators because they can't tell how to get on and off of it. So you have a child that hates an escalator. The chances are he has a visual processing problem. And the eye exam may be more or less normal. And if you have a child that can't read, the next slide shows print jiggling on the paper. Try different pale colored papers. Now, this is my children's project book right here. Well, you see the light blue paper color right there. Try printing on the the homework and the reading materials on maybe light tan paper, light gray paper, all these different colored papers. That sometimes really works for some types of dyslexia. Just try different colored paper, try different colored backgrounds on your computer, on your laptop, or on the iPad. The next slide, I talk about lighting issues. And one of the big ones now is LED lights that flicker. And one of the ways that you can determine if LED lights are bad is take pictures of them in slow motion. So you want to wave like this, because when you play it back, you want to make sure it's playing back in slow motion. And you're going to find some flat screen TVs that flicker. Now, tablets do not flicker. Most laptops do not flicker. But there's going to be some flat screen TV computer monitors that are bad. And this does not affect all people with autism. But I'm going to say about 10 or 20% may have a problem with seeing flicker of LED lights or on TVs and computer monitors. So what do you do if you have that problem? You go buy a lamp and you find an LED light that does not flicker and you put it next to the desk. And you can buy cheap ones that don't flicker. But this is something that's a real problem. And when I get asked about designing a school or a home for people with autism, I want to make sure we have LED lights that do not flicker. I just learned from a technical specialist that if a TV flickers, it has to do with the internet connection. But this kind of stuff needs to be fixed, and you can just test it with slow motion video. The next slide just talks about some more severe sensory issues. In noisy environments, I am not able to hear because of all the background noise. Cannot hear. And I also cannot follow very rapid chit-chat conversations where people get very social, chit-chatting back and forth very rapidly. I get bored with that. And there's questions coming up about masking. Some of that stuff's just too hard for me to do. But you can always do some business social. You know, shake hands with people. There are some individuals that need breaks. But sensory problems are real. Let's go on to the next slide. The next slide talks about this environmental enrichment program, where you use inexpensive, cheap things to stimulate two senses at the same time. You're always changing the things that you stimulate, and it's an adjunct or an add-on to other types of therapy. Now, the next slide shows some really wonderful books for that have been written by non-speaking autistics. Now, I really like How Can I Talk My Lips Don't Move by Tito. I had a chance to meet Tito, and he came into a library, and he was flapping and everything. And I wanted to see, I tested him with a really, really strange picture that he had never seen before, and it had an astronaut in a spacesuit riding a horse out in the desert. And I showed that to Tito, and he types really fast, Apollo 11 on a horse. Another good book's Carly Fleischman's, Arthur Fleischman's Carly's Voice. Then you got The Reason I Jump, the sequel to The Reason I Jump. I like the sequel. It's a better book. But I'll give you a little tip about the typing. Remember the problem with attention shift. Okay, like on this desktop, my keyboard's way down here. But when I type, that print appears way up here on the screen here, and the keyboard's down below where the video is. Now, many people with autism cannot make that attention shift. And that's the reason why you want to use a tablet, because the virtual keyboard, with using that virtual keyboard, the writing appears right next to the top of the keyboard. Or you're going to have to, on a laptop, put the keyboard on a box, and you need to make sure it's a monitor that does not flicker. This is really, really important. Next slide just shows some brain scans. And the point I want to get across right there, different parts of the brain get turned on when you do different things, like seeing things, hearing words, thinking about things. And where there's a problem in autism is in kind of the inter-office communications. And what you tend to get is uneven skills. Like I'm really good at art and mechanical stuff. Somebody else might be really good at mathematical stuff. And we'll just show some more pretty brain scans. Next slide shows, oh, that's my skull. Let's show the next slide. That's the microbiome. You see the little tiny hairs there. Those are axon tails, and they form great big inter-office communication cables between different parts of the brain. And then I can show you a slide without my ugly skull. And that the connectome is much prettier when it's by itself. The next slide shows the circuit in the brain for speak what you see. Now there's the normal control right there, and I'll show you mine. The next slide, that's my speak what you see. And I have all these extra branches for visual thinking, but I have less fibers for speech. So that might explain why I had trouble getting my speech out. But when I had speech therapy, it increases the bandwidth on the fibers that are still left. And the next slide just shows that. But this is where the therapy made a difference because I had trouble getting my speech out. Let's go to the next slide. Now, for speak what I hear, I am definitely not an auditory person. I am definitely a visual person. And we'll go on to the next slide. And I want to talk about the importance of developing strengths. That's an artwork I did when I was about 6 or 7 years old. Mother always encouraged my ability in art. It's a picture of a wooden dock or deck that was by the beach. And she always encouraged my my art. And the next slide just shows a picture a young child did in 3-dimensional. Most little kids don't do that. And I would just draw the same horse's head over and over and over again. So mother would broaden my skill. Let's draw the stable. Let's draw the saddle. Or if you have a child that likes cars, let's read about cars, do math with cars, draw pictures of different cars. In other words, broaden that fixation. Broaden the fixation, especially if it's something like cars, that can turn into a career. The next slide just talks about the art ability being encouraged. Often we'll have uneven skills, really good at art. I was absolutely terrible at mathematics, but then you're going to have another autistic person that's good at math. And we'll go to the next slide where it shows that the way I think, it's videos in my head or movies in my head. I'm what's called an object visualizer. And in my new book, Visual Thinking, The Hidden Gifts of People Who Think in Pictures, Patterns, and Abstractions, I discuss 3 different kinds of thinking that you can have in autism. Most people are mixtures of the different kinds of thinking. But in autism, you might get an extreme object visualizer. That's me. And the HBO movie shows how I think. My kind of mind's good at art, mechanical things, photography, working with animals, absolutely terrible in mathematics. And then you have the next kind of mind is the visual, spatial, mathematical mind. And the mathematical mind thinks in patterns. And then you have people that think in words. And it's important to, kind of know how the child thinks. That just shows eclipse shadows on where the eclipse, the trees made little tiny eclipses like a pinhole camera. That happened on our campus. I noticed detail. I watched a whole bunch of students just walk over that. They just didn't notice it. But I noticed visual detail. The next slide shows 2 things that can bother cattle, like seeing a car through the fence, seeing a piece of red string, seeing a bottle there that might move. Little things that people don't notice. Also in autism, there is there's some better ability to pitch discrimination. There's been a lot of research that shows that these sensory things really, really are real. And the next slide shows one of my cattle handling facilities. And how did I sell my work? One of the things I did to sell my work was to show off pictures of things I had designed. And one thing I really liked in the HBO movie is that it showed my actual projects. It also shows how I think in pictures. It's very, very accurate on that. And I can say that the geek side of me really liked that. The next slide shows a recreation of one of my projects in the HBO movie. I thought that was just so cool. I really, really liked that. The next slide shows starting on my very first project. Now, I had some good mentors in the construction industry. On my first project, the Swift plant, 1974, I criticized some welding, and I said it looked like a bird had poo-pooed on it, and that was pretty rude. And the plant engineer pulled me into his office in private and said I had to apologize for that rude kind of talk. He told me what I should do. And then another person that helped me was a small contractor, steel and concrete work contractor, who had seen my drawings and seeked me out. And for 10 years, we built projects together. And so those are on a construction site, some of my early projects. And some of the most fun stuff I ever did was working in construction. And I worked with a lot of people that were probably dyslexic, ADHD, or autistic. Some of these people owned big companies where they made mechanical equipment. They had lots of patents. I really put the emphasis on the career. This is what's made life happy for me, is having a fulfilling career. The next slides just show some of my drawings. And when I showed people my drawings, they were impressed. That's how I sold jobs. Okay, let's work on what are we going to do about job interviews? Well, a job interview for me was lay the drawings on the table and show off the drawings. That's what I did. And they'd look at my drawings and go, well, in fact, actually today, now that everything's computerized drawings, I'm seeing some very bad drawings. And now the next drawing shows a dipping vat system. And you can see on the concrete work, I have all the reinforcing rods drawn in there. 4 years ago, I got a really horrible set of drawings that the engineering firm had done on a computer, and they hadn't drawn in the reinforcing rods. And I marked them all in pencil, and I said, you go back to that engineering firm and get it done right. This is a piece of equipment I developed for the meat industry called the center track restrainer system. You can see a lot of complicated steel work there. And one of the people I worked on this was autistic, undiagnosed. Special ed department builds the stuff. And we need these skills. We need to find back doors into jobs, where you just kind of bypass the interview and get jobs. Well, a friend that has a store, and maybe they'd be willing to work with the kid. I think I'm going to stop there. You can have the rest of the slides because I'd like to do questions. And I've already talked about some of the most important stuff. But what you see right there is high-end skilled trades. And I was very interested. I went to the Steve Jobs Theater right before COVID shut everything down. And the glass walls came from Italy and Germany. And the carbon fiber roof came from Dubai. That's very, very high-end skilled trades. That's something to be proud of. All right, let's get some questions going right now. Hope I'm going to get some questions. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, let's get some questions.
Yeah, just a second.
Hi, my name is Sona. I have a son. He is nearly 8 years old. And I always have this question because I'm a big fan of you and I know you know a lot about autism and animal behavior. So I wanted to ask, what's the connection between visual sensory preference as my cats and my son? They both like similar toys and they have similar visual preference. Is there any link?
Does your son speak?
He is speaking, but he is not like having any big vocabulary. So he has very short vocabulary and has sensory issues.
Does he have a decent way to communicate? Even something out like one of these computerized things that will speak, or a picture board or something for him to communicate with?
No, we never use like visual pictures like PECs. We never use those. So we encouraging him to use more spontaneous speech and the speech therapist, the ABA therapist, all of them, what they recommend, we follow that.
Well, if he can learn to speak, then you don't need to use PECs. But
Yeah.
if you have a child that has like 3-word vocabulary, and he's 8 years old, we need to give him another way to communicate more easily. And that, I can remember the frustration when I couldn't communicate. And I remember that, I showed you that picture of the bicycle in the suitcase. And it was so frustrating when the teacher didn't give me time to explain that in our house suitcases were bags. And I didn't understand the concept of the letter B, the sound of the letter B. But there's a point where they need to get a better way to communicate.
Yeah,
some kids can use sign language, some kids there's various programs you can get for tablets.
Yeah, the thing is, he started talking just before he gets 6, so it's really delayed. So that's why.
But is he starting to talk? Are you getting more and more language?
Yes, and more clarity. Like it takes time. Like it's a step by step. But we had him from severe autism. Now he is in between low and moderate autism.
Okay,
so
well,
in the
that's
spectrum.
Good. If you're getting progress, parents always asking about different programs. I said the most important thing is you're getting progress.
Yes,
now, if you're getting progress right now, then you're doing the right thing.
Yes, the only problem I'm struggling is his memory and his sensory problems. That kind of restrict him to learn more and focus on tasks and academics. And he's better in maths. As you said, there are a few types of visual learners. He is more into maths and numbers rather than alphabets and reading.
You see, because I said there's a visual kind of autism, that's me, but there's also a mathematical. There are kids that are very mathematical.
He is visual in maths, but he's not very visual in, he's not into reading that much, but he's better in maths, like counting and numbers. He's really good with numbers.
Good. Then you maybe you can move him ahead in numbers. How is he at things like getting dressed, bathing, these kinds of things?
He is very independent. Wherever I taught him, is very independent.
Good. That's good. He's learning those skills.
Yeah, he is even better than my other children, like neurotypical ones. So he is more independent than them, and he understands routine better than them. The only problem I have, I can't find his special skill. He really likes music, and he is very athletic. He does parkour, he does swimming, he does cycling.
Well, good. He's very athletic. That's good. And see, the problem you got with autism is it's such a wide spectrum now. Let's say you take a diagnosis like dyslexia. Okay, that's problems with reading. Or ADHD, you tend to, detention. It's a much narrower diagnosis, and this is the problem we've got. We've probably got half of autistic kids that have a special skill, and there's going to be some that don't really have a special skill.
Yeah, he has autism, ADHD, and dyslexia, all three, and Erlin syndrome.
Well, the Erlin syndrome, have you tried the Erlin classes?
Yes, I myself, I qualified as well. I just took the course so I can keep checking on him. Yeah, we got the glasses.
Well, the other thing I find that works also for people that have Erlin syndrome, I talked about the colored paper.
Yeah, we do use.
We
do use. All of his notebooks are turquoise.
Well, like I've got a tan shirt on right now, and that would be one of the colors, the light tan like this shirt. Some people like that, and then other people, they like this light blue that's on my children's project book.
Yeah, that light blue, that's the thing for him,
light blue,
calms
like
him.
My tie.
Yes, it calms him.
It needs to be the pale colors.
Yeah.
Not dark blue, light blue.
Yeah, I changed those, but he still have visual sensory problems. So is there any connection?
What about sound sensitivity?
Sound sensitivity he has, but I kind of always give him that opportunity. Like you said, he's in charge of hair dryer. He's in charge of hand dryer. When we go to cinema, at the beginning he was very hesitated, but then he got used to. Now he is properly sitting like other children. So I kind of make him to be prone to that, and he's used to it.
Well, that's good that you see him and making him see when the child turns the hair dryer on and off or the vacuum on and off, where they control it.
Yes.
That should desensitize some of that.
Yeah, but still I'm struggling with his memory and his visual sensory. Like my cat and him, they prefer the same toy. You know what I mean? Like he will kind of keep doing with that, playing with that toy, even though he has 1,000 other toys. but
And
his
how was
preference.
he taking turns at a game?
He was not good. He was having meltdowns. He would get angry. But I kind of desensitized him with that as well, like on the cues of airport, like slowly by rewarding him using ABA techniques.
And you don't have a surprise at the airport. You know, like you can watch videos and I found that one of the things that I got afraid of them, if I made them interesting.
Yeah, exactly. That sports.
What one parent did about the hand dryers in the bathrooms, they went to the websites of all the manufacturers of the hand dryers, and then they got interested in how they worked, and he collected all the websites of hand dryer manufacturers. No, seriously, this actually helped.
Yeah, it's the same with him. Wherever we start with, like even food diet, we started with him. At the beginning, he didn't like. Now he loves healthy, clean food. He wouldn't eat rice. Before, he was addicted to all these carbs, rice.
Oh, yeah, it's bad.
Now he wouldn't eat.
I get worried that some of these kids with these restricted diets are going to get the old vitamin deficiency diseases. There was a horrible case where a kid got scurvy, which is vitamin C deficiency, because the diet was so restricted. Maybe we need to get somebody else to ask a question. I want to give somebody else a turn.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Hi, good morning and nice to meet you. You made a point about people who don't speak much, they're more on touching and smelling things. And I just wanted to know how can that be helped and how can they be helped to speak better?
Well, if you read, I really recommend that you read Tito's book, How Can I Talk If My Lips Don't Move? It is available in an electronic book. I checked Amazon recently, it is available. And he talks about vision being scrambled. Also, the Japanese boy in the sequel, which I think is a better book, he talks about being like a broken robot and having problems with controlling his movements. And if you have an older child or an adult that's either non-speaking or very poor speaking, I really recommend these books because it gives the inside view of their issues. And I don't have scrambled vision. I see just fine. You see, this is where autism has all these variations. But some of them get scrambled vision, and then smell and touch actually work. Those senses are giving accurate information, so then they tend to use them since they work.
So the wish.
Really recommend those books. I've got a PDF here. I'll just hold up that slide again of those books right there. If you have an older kid or an adult that doesn't speak, those books are going to give you so much insight. They type independently. Nobody's holding their wrist or their arm. They type completely independently, and they describe sensory scrambling. Now, I don't have this. I have sound sensitive. And then there's some, I had a student that had a problem with print jingling on the page. But see, this is where the sensory stuff is so variable. This is sensory problems a lot worse than mine was.
Good morning. My question is how to teach taking turns. There is a child, 8-year-old. He struggles with taking turns. He can't wait. And while playing...
That was the reason why when I was 3, we spent a big part of my therapy was learning how to wait and take turns in games.
How do I teach? How do I do it? Like sometimes there's a video activity happening and there are 3 kids. One after another, they can watch their favorite video clip for maybe 5 minutes. But he can't wait for others.
Well, let's do something where it's shorter than 5 minutes, like a board game. We played a lot of Parcheesi, which is a very simple board game where you shake little cups with dice in it, and you move little wooden pieces around on the board, and And I remember grabbing that cup and mother said, you've got to wait for your sister to take her turn. And something where that it's not 5 minutes. Let's do some turn-taking thing where it's, you know,
1
like
minute.
you take a turn in Parcheesi takes 10 seconds.
Okay, so I start with 10 seconds to, the first activity should be very short.
Well, but the thing is, my speech teacher that I had years ago, this would be like in 1950,
Okay.
she just knew that teaching the kids how to wait and take turns was super important. My therapy had a lot of emphasis on that.
All right.
How to wait in line. Okay, you're at the supermarket and you've got to wait in line. You can't cut to the front of the line. That's also turn taking.
The child is able to wait in queue, but only taking turns when there's a person who is talking to him. He finds it difficult. In queue, nobody is speaking to each other. They are facing the other way, so he finds it very easy to wait in queue. But he has.
Okay, wait queues, okay.
But when he has to play with other children or he has to watch a video and wait for that time, he feels that he's not given his. He's not having control on his activity. I don't know what is the exact feeling he has.
Well, you might try different things. When we were kids, we did a lot of relay races where you'd take turns running and kicking a ball or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, try some different things that involve taking turns. Now, if you're watching videos, one thing I'd recommend is the phone be physically passed.
All right.
The phone has to be physically passed around.
Thank you so much.
The taking turns means the phone has to be given to the other person and passed around if you're doing something on a phone.
All right.
I think that's going to help on the taking turns.
Thank you so much.
Okay, maybe we can get another question.
Hi, Doctor. Nice to meet you today. In the last 5 years, we're hearing somebody tell autism causes by TV. I want today listen in your opinion.
Caused by what? I didn't hear you.
TV. Television. TV.
Autism is caused by television?
Yeah, somebody tell that.
No, autism not caused by television. But if you let a child spend 10 hours a day watching television, that's bad. And it'll probably make the autism worse. You know, we need to be getting them out and doing things. No, but television does not cause autism.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Eleonora. I want to ask you, what do you think about the connection between language and motor coordination? Is it important to improve motor coordination in autistic children, to improve also language? What do you think?
Well, there's some really interesting things that's happening with horseback riding. And I've had parents tell me that their kid did their first words on a horse. Now, there's three things that happen on a horse. First of all, riding horses is really fun. Yeah. But the other thing is you have to balance and there's rhythm. You're doing balancing and rhythm at the same time. Now, occupational therapists and sensory integration might get you on a swing and do some of the same thing. But when you stimulate the vestibular system with balance and rhythm, that can be real helpful. Another simple thing that might work is you nail a board to the floor, and then you have the person walk, what we call walk the tightrope like this, along a board that's nailed to the floor. I mean, it's only like that far above the floor. But you do these activities that stimulate the cerebellum. Yeah. Things like swinging. There's a paper I worked on years ago with Lorna King. The child, they had him on a swing and they were working on speech. And there's some good things with the motor and speech. And the thing that's not known is which kids respond to this. You see, this is the problem with any of these sensory things. You know, it works on one kid and another kid it doesn't work. Okay, I worked on my squeeze machine. Some kids respond to deep pressure, other kids don't. This is where the sensory problems are real variable. But some individuals, they do swinging, balancing, rhythmic activities that can help on speech for some individuals.
Okay, we can use also music, for example,
Yeah.
rhythm.
And
That is very
music can be
important.
helpful. The other thing is there are some individuals that can sing words before they speak them.
Yeah.
Singing is on different brain circuits, so they could sing the words rather than speak them. Sometimes that works.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grandin, for wonderfully sharing your insights as an autistic person. One thing that has caught my eye is that your parent, your mother, played a very key role in
Absolutely. And then another book you might find helpful, I got a book called The Way I See It. That's I got a lot of little short articles in it. It's available on Amazon. That might be helpful.
Thank you. Yeah,
I also have a lot of information on website, templegrandin.com. There's templegrandin.com. There's lots of free information on that.
Thank you. So I'm a mother of triplet boys with autism. They are 11 years old, all different. They are all on a different spectrum. And one is still nonverbal. And all my sons are really not academically gifted. And there's one thing you have mentioned, that you're really fortunate and happy that you have a wonderful career. Now, I would like to request if you can share, one word or a direction to us parents. Often we find that we want to follow the typical growth, go to kindergarten, go to primary, go to high school, go to university, get a job, get married, all that. But our children, most of our children with autism don't really seem to fit there. What can you tell us?
The thing, you have uneven skills. I'm a big believer in getting children exposed to lots of different things. I did all kinds of things when I was a child: cooking, sewing, woodworking, art, music. I was taught musical instruments, and I was terrible at musical instruments, but good at art and mechanical things. And so you expose kids to lots of different things, then you can see what they are good at. But I know, like you look at this equipment here, I've worked with people where a single welding class led to building things like what's shown in that picture. And then another kid, it might be mathematics and programming. Some you have to expose them. And then you've got people with autism that are not going to be building equipment, they're not going to be doing mathematics and programming. Let's say you have a kid that's good with numbers. Well, then show him other mathematical stuff. Here's some really cool pattern stuff right here I found in one of my science magazines. Those patterns, they all have mathematics behind them. Isn't that cool? In a science magazine.
Yeah.
There's some kids that are going to just, they may be gifted in that. You see, this is the problem. You're really good at one thing, sometimes really bad at something else. And the people that build the equipment, like you see there, complicated stuff, most of them could not do algebra. It's all pure visual thinking. But they're building stuff like that.
Thank you.
I had a chance to go on a corporate jet the other day. The guy that took one welding class, he builds entire beef plants, and he just has them memorized in his head. A single welding class. He's building entire beef plants.
Unfortunately, we're running.
He's not autistic. He's not autistic. But I did work with several other people in metalworking that I'm pretty sure were autistic.
We're out of time now, so we're just going to have one more question. I know that we would. One more question.
Hello.
Midnight or whatever, I'm going to go to bed. But I'm really glad that I was able to get up and talk to everybody. And free to give the videotape around to people. There's more slides in this deck. You can go ahead and give people the whole slide deck. It just wasn't time to work tonight to show all the slides.
Hello, Dr. Grandin. Thank you so much for the presentation.
My question is, right now I'm working as a general practitioner, but when I was a teenager, I had a distant cousin who, at that time, he was 7 years old. He has symptoms of aggressive behavior and at times, but most of the times he's a very quiet kid. He won't interact much and everything, but the aggressive behavior is the key point, like it's almost disruptive. And later on we diagnosed he has autism. But
How old was he when he was doing the destructive behavior?
at 7 years old. And because of that, his whole family also have a history of mental illness, like other mental illness. It's stigmatizing, it's so traumatizing for all of them, especially the boy. So how to deal with autism children with aggressive behavior?
I had aggressive behavior when I was 7. There was a penalty for it. There was no television for one night. For aggressive behavior. The other thing you have to look at, what is bringing it on? Is there a problem with frustration with communication or with sensory overload?
Communication.
We've got to make sure he doesn't have if the child is non-speaking, then you always have to make sure you do not have a hidden painful medical issue, like maybe an ear infection, urinary tract infection, acid reflux in their stomach, a toothache, something that's hurting that they cannot tell you about.
I think he had meningitis. He had meningitis.
I also problems with things like getting aggressive when I was a child was worse when I got tired. Mother had a pretty good sense of when she needed to just say, I need to go to my room and like just calm down. But when I was 7, I was fully verbal and there were consequences for aggressive behavior. No TV for one night. And then I threw a big tantrum. Mother would put me in my room and let me calm down for half an hour. And then she'd say, well, you know the rule. You join the family now. But there'll be no television tonight. And I understood consequences, but I think there's some individuals where they may not make the connection between the tantrum they had at school and no television that night. See, this is the problem you've got with autism. You've got such a big range.
Okay, I think that was.
And then you've got the autistic. You see, the people that I worked with that had the metalworking shop and all the patents, designing equipment, they would have been more than Asperger type. There would have been no speech delay. You see, this is where that Asperger type with no speech delay now has been merged in with the autism with speech delay. I had speech delay, so I was definitely not the Asperger type. And the people that I worked with professionally in metalworking work would have been the Asperger type. But they had social issues. I'll never forget one of the jobs, I had to drag the guy out of the shop because before he got the plant engineer.
We're out of time now. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And it's my honor to introduce Dr. Alok Sharma. Dr. Alok Sharma is the professor and head of the Department of Neurosurgery at LTM Medical College and Hospital in Mumbai, India. He is also the director of Neurogen Brain and Spine Institute and KLS Institute of Anti-Aging, both in Navi, Mumbai. He is the president of the Stem Cell Society in India and vice president of the International Association of Neurorestoratology. He has published 172 scientific papers, authored 24 books, contributed chapters in 19 textbooks, and made over 200 scientific presentations. He is a world-renowned pioneer in the field of cellular therapy for neurological disorders, having treated more than 12,000 patients from 75 different countries. His landmark accomplishments include the publication of the world's first scientific paper on the role of cellular therapy in autism. He has revolutionized the management of neurodevelopmental disorders with his innovative combination of cellular and integrative therapies. For this, he has received several international and national awards, such as the Rose of Paracelsus Award from the EMA Oxford 2016, the European Award for Best Practices, Brussels 2018, the Bharat Gaurav Award, London 2019, the Newton Universal Legendary Award, Boston 2022, the Sino-Phil Asia International Peace Award, Manila 2023, etc. Let's welcome Dr. Alok Sharma.
This is truly amazing. To be in Dubai, to be at this wonderful international conference for autism and neurodevelopmental disorders, but most important, to be able to give a talk immediately after Temple Grandin. What an honor. I had never thought in my life that, one day I'd be speaking after the legendary Temple Grandin. Temple, you're just so amazing. You're not you, your life, your thoughts, your work, your effort is not just an inspiration to people on the spectrum, to their families, but to all of us caretakers, researchers, and doctors in the field as well. So I'd like to begin by thanking Temple for the wonderful and amazing talk that she just gave. I'm going to speak on a new topic, that's regenerative medicine in autism spectrum disorders. When I give a talk, I like to begin with this picture. This is a picture, this is a painting, a huge painting, the size of this entire wall, which I found in a hospital in Howlin, Taiwan. And when I entered that hospital, I asked them, why is this picture here? They said, this is a picture of Lord Buddha going into the jungle to heal. And they said the job of the physician is to reach out to people who are in suffering and heal them. So that's what we have to do, reach out and help those in need of healing. Now, if you look at the increasing prevalence of autism, it is actually unbelievable and incredible that the world has not taken notice of what's happening. You look and see in 2004, the incidence was 1 in 166. In 2023, it has become 1 in 36. At this rate, in the next 2 decades, every third child will be on the autism spectrum. Okay, this is something we as medical professionals need to bring to the attention of society, of people, of governments, of administrators and rulers, that this is unprecedented and that the facilities to take care of these children do not match up to the increasing incidence. There are about 70 million kids on the planet. That's 1% of the world's population. It's like a huge percentage of people. So the current situation is that, you have a child who has some symptoms, the parents notice, you go to the doctor, therapist, get a diagnosis, and they say what you can do is therapy. You start the therapy and you're back to where you were. So what's new? What am I going to be talking in this talk that's different? First, the concept of neurodiversity. And this is what Temple spoke of, okay? That we have to see how people on the spectrum are diverse, that they are not less than, they are different, that they have uneven talents and skills. So the concept of neurodiversity, because now there are going to be so many people on the planet that you can't look at them in the way that we've been looking at them earlier. The other exciting thing, and I'm going to highlight that, is a better understanding of what's happening with the brain. And this is what has changed everything. Then the whole concept of neuronal regeneration, that it is possible to regenerate the brain that's not functioning as well. And the concept of multidisciplinary management, and of course the main base of my talk, which is cellular therapy. Now, what is new is that for the first time in medical history, we are now understanding which parts of the brain are functioning differently from neurotypical brains. And we've done scans, we've done a lot of research in this area, and you can see that list: the amygdala, the hippocampus, the parahippocampal gyrus, the cerebellum, the caudate nucleus, the mesial temporal lobes, thalamus, superior and middle temporal poles. So we've actually identified very clearly which parts of the brain are functioning less. We've also identified which parts of the brain are functioning more. Our focus so far has been on what these children can't do. What we also need to look at, which parts of their brain actually are functioning more than what neurotypical people do. And there are actually parts in the calcarine fissure, the Heschel's gyrus, cortical frontal areas that function more. They are hypermetabolic. So we need to understand this as well. And our work has been published in a landmark paper, among the first of it's in published literature in the World Journal of Nuclear Medicine, where we've clearly highlighted which parts of the brain work less and which are working more. Now, what we found here, and this is the only thing that we need to give attention to, because Temple again keeps talking of early intervention. She keeps talking about early intervention, and I'm going to show you the scientific base of the need for early intervention. And that is this. If you look at this graphic, you will see that, you will see that the brain metabolism over the years keeps on declining. So what you see in light green is how the brains of neurotypical kids, the brain metabolism keeps on increasing. Whereas children on the spectrum is the light blue, you can see it keeps on declining. What does this mean? It means the earlier we treat the children, the early intervention is there, the better results, because the later you treat them, the hypermetabolism is actually increased. So the old thinking was that once the brain is damaged, you cannot regenerate it, and the new thinking is it's possible to regenerate the brain through cellular replacement and repair. The other thing that has changed in autism is the concept of multidisciplinary management. So far what would happen is a person specializes in something and then that's all they would offer. So if you're a center that has occupational therapy, you focus on occupational therapy. You have a center that does speech therapy, you focus on that. But what is the need is a multidisciplinary management, which includes everything, all the things listed, and cell therapy, which I will talk about, is one of them. So there is no one silver bullet. The management of autism will be multidisciplinary. So look at that. On the left-hand side, you see a fractured bone. And I ask yourself, will you give rehabilitation to a person with that fractured bone? Would anybody give physiotherapy on a broken bone? Now look at the left. You go to an orthopedic surgeon, you get it fixed, don't you? And now you give rehabilitation. But in autism, we do exactly the opposite. On the left-hand side, the blue area is the hypermetabolic brain. We are giving rehabilitation on a brain that's not functioning optimally, and then we are expecting results of a normal brain. It won't happen. But through cellular therapy, you can see on the right-hand side, the brain has started functioning again. Now, if you give rehabilitation, you are bound to get better results. So cell therapy is a promising new modality where you use healthy cells to replace damaged cells. So that's the brain damage, and you can see that there is recovery. So now look and see what are stem cells. So the word stem comes from the stem of a plant, and just like from the stem of a plant, you can have leaves, fruits, everything else. There are some cells from which all the other cells arise. So the way stem cells work is they multiply, they convert into other cell types, they improve the blood supply, and they release certain positive growth chemicals, and because of that, they repair, they regenerate, and they replace damaged tissue. Cells are of two types. You can be autologous, when you take from the patient, put it back in the patient, or donor cells, when you take it from somebody else. There are different types of cells. You can get them from the embryo, but this is very controversial, so we do not use it. You can get them from the umbilical cord. You can get it from the patient itself, from the bone, and that's what we use. They are called adult stem cells, and induced pluripotent stem cells are in the research stage. So we work with adult stem cells because they are safe, they don't form tumors, they have no rejection, they are easily obtainable, and there are no ethical issues. There are different ways of injecting stem cells. You can inject it intrathecally into the spinal fluid, that's what we do, or intravenously, intramuscularly, through the nose, or directly into the brain. How does cellular therapy work? We know the main problem in autism is there is hypoperfusion, decreased oxygenation, and problems with the immune system and inflammation. Cell therapy works through both these mechanisms. So here is a small video showing the three basic steps. What we do a bone marrow aspiration with a needle, separate the cells, and inject it back. The whole process has only 2 needle pricks. Let's look at a video. There you can see with the needle we are aspirating bone marrow. That takes 15-20 minutes. The bone marrow is put into machines. It separates the cells. And once the cells are ready, with a very thin needle, we inject it back. Just 2 needle pricks. And we take cells from the child and put it back into the child. So let's review what the world literature says. So there are a total of 33 clinical studies, published papers, which show a 80% success rate. 33 worldwide papers. And if you see a review of literature, the world's first scientific paper was published from India. It was by us. We also published the 6th one. The others came from China, Italy, America, etc. So this is the world's first paper on cell therapy in autism, which we published in 2014. This was our paper, and it showed 91% of the patients improved. The second paper came from China. Here again, they showed an 88% improvement. The third paper came from the United States by Dawson, again showing 90% improvement. This another paper from the United States by Kimberly et al. Showing 90% success rate. This paper by Martinez from Mexico showing a 95% success rate. This paper from Vietnam by Thang et al. Which showed a 93% success rate. This paper from Italy, which showed a 78% success rate. Now, this is a meta-analysis. This is a review of 460 patients. And at the end, in this paper, they summarize that cellular therapy is safe and that it improves patients with autism spectrum, regardless of what type of cell we use. In this other systemic review by Jingyang Q from China, they looked at 325 patients. And again, they said it is safe and effective. So there is enough published worldwide literature to show the effectiveness of cellular therapy. Now, this is our latest paper. We had 2 papers, but I'll talk about the second paper because this was 254 patients. We use autologous bone marrow mononuclear cells. You can see the improvement in the various symptoms, and almost all the symptoms, whether it is social interaction, eye contact, attention, stereotypical behavior, aggressiveness, hyperactivity, self-injurious behavior, sitting tolerance, command following, speech, communication, all these you can see above is the percentage of improvement. And we have scales called ICAN CARS, and you can see that there was a significant improvement, 94% and 95% in these scales. Now here's something interesting. The results depended on age. So those kids who were less than 5 years, we had a 97% success rate. Between 5 to 10, it reduced to 94. Between 10 to 15, 94 again. And 15 and above, it was 91. So the earlier we intervene, the better results we are likely to get. Here again, you can see on CARS scale, again, 98, 95, 90, 91. So you can see that age affects the outcome. Now, what was the objective proof? Because one is clinical improvement. So in our study, we actually showed objective improvement. So above, this is a PET CT scan where the blue areas are the hypometabolic areas, the areas that are functioning less than normal. So you can see above all the blue. Now this is done on a Siemens machine. Below, you see 6 months later, and you can see the hypometabolic areas are gone. So this is objective proof. I'm just showing you 1 or 2 scans, but we have almost 3,000 such scans before and after that show that the brain damage, the parts of the brain that are not functioning appropriately in autism, they can be repaired. And this is proof of that. So this is on a Siemens machine, and this is on a GE machine. Again, you can see the cerebellum, blue area, hypometabolic, and below you can see that it has improved. So on 2 different sets of machines, Siemens machine and General Electric machines, both show before and after improvement. We have a total of 6 scientific publications in the results of cell therapy in autism. And now international books, medical books are introducing chapters. So in this book on recent advances in autism, there is a chapter, Stem Cell Therapy in Autism Spectrum Disorders, and they've asked us to write the chapter. So we've written the chapter for this book. Now this is data, what I showed you earlier was published. This data of 1,000 patients has been sent for publication. But just to give you an outcome, this is 1,010 patients. And again, you can see more or less similar symptomatic improvements. Again, the ISA and CAR scales, good improvement. Individual domains of ISA. And age-wise, again, you can see the same thing. Below 5 years, 89% improvement. Above 15 years, it dropped to 80%. And this is the analysis, you can see above the blue areas, the damaged areas, and below, after cell therapy, you can see that the brain has got activated. You can again see above and below. So complications. So we've had no major complications. There has been no neurological deterioration, no infection. However, one major concern is that 3% of our patients develop increased incidence of epilepsy when they already had epilepsy in the past. 10% of the patients get a spinal headache which lasts for 1 or 2 days immediately after the procedure, and there was some nausea, vomiting, local pain, etc. Now we've published this as a separate paper. People normally like to hide their adverse events. We've published a paper saying that seizures may happen as an adverse event because there is no treatment which does not have adverse events. But if you know it, you can actually manage it. So we've published this as well. Now I'll just show you a couple of videos. Just if you have little time, so yeah, we have some time. So I'll show you a couple of videos. There are three sets of patients from 3 continents. This is a child from America. Father was a cardiologist, mother is a nurse, and he's improved so much. Today, this kid is not only completely off the spectrum, this video is a little old, but he's topping in school and he's doing wonderfully well.
I couldn't get him to engage with me. I couldn't get him to give me eye contact. Over time, he started to lose a lot of vocabulary. Right around 18 months to the age of 2 years, he just slid backwards.
He would flap like that, and he would walk on his tiptoes, look at the wall and be talking to the wall. He had problems with eye contact. He'd never look you straight in the eye. He had problems with his speech. Some research and found out about neurogen. And the big question that I had in my own mind was, what is there to lose? And I could not come up with a good answer, and I said, we have to do it.
We started seeing better eye contact, definitely a difference in his engagement with us, with his sibling, his mood. He was so much calmer. Now he's all about taking his own shower. I have to just prompt him to get out, but he'll wash himself and he'll put his clothes on. Saw the PET scan images. I can't tell you the word, we were just so excited and thrilled. The areas that were hypoactive or non-active were warm. There was activity there. Ganesh has gone from the 3rd grade, 4th month reading level to a 7th grade, 1st month reading level in 5 months.
And now we have Mercy over here.
We went to different doctors, we went to different hospitals, and when I brought it up, they were like, oh, no, don't worry, it's because they are boys, they are triplets, they were premature. I would be walking out and I'm like, bye, and no child is crying, no child is waving back bye. And by then, for sure, I knew that they should be doing that. The children had this behavior of disappearing. In fact, Eric disappeared 3 times in the middle of the night. The biting, the spitting, the scratching. How are we going to stop this behavior? We went to see the neurologist, and in 5 minutes, he said, these children are autistic.
As parents, it was very traumatizing. First of all, we didn't understand what autistic means.
So I decided to really get to read a lot about autism. I remember the first time I read about stem cell. I was like, wow, this is really good.
We had a lot of questions which we asked, and we got very clear answers from Dr. Sharma.
The day of the stem cell itself came. Actually, I was a bit anxious, of course, but really I didn't have fear. A bit of apprehension, anxiety, of course, as a mother, but I knew they're in good hands.
We put a needle in this pelvic bone, and then we take out the bone marrow, which is the fluid inside the bone. the pure stem cells, once they are ready, a thin needle is inserted into the lower back. We inject the stem cells into the cerebrospinal fluid. It flows all the way up to the brain.
Things that would have taken probably years to be accomplished in my sons, in like 8 months' time, we've really been able to come very far. Just with water.
They used to defecate on their clothes, but now they can use the toilet. We've seen a lot of improvement in terms of spitting. The tantrums have reduced. Sleeping used to be a problem before, but at the moment, he is taken to his bed. It takes a few minutes and he is asleep.
You see my sons cycle. You try to make them understand what it is to pedal, and they couldn't. But after stem cell, when we arrived in Kenya the following day and we went out, and these guys could cycle. I'm going to send you to buy tomato paste, okay? I'm going to send you to buy what?
Tomato paste.
In the shop. Where is the shop?
It's here.
Okay. So I'm going to give you...
Money.
For what?
Buy tomato lollipop. I'm going to wear my shoes. That's right.
Parents ask me, so do you really think stem cell works? And I'm like, I can see changes, I can touch, I can feel, I can smell. Of course, for me, stem cell works. I'll do it until my children get well.
So that's 2 stories, and by the way, Ricky's right here. You're going to see him, he's right here. We are short of time, so I won't talk much about cerebral palsy, but this is a paper. It works just as well in cerebral palsy. We've got 15 articles, chapters in textbooks, and that's the brain damage before in cerebral palsy. That's after. You can see the improvement. Then in intellectual disability, it works as well. We have the world's first scientific paper. We've treated more than 12,000 patients from 75 countries, total of 106 papers and 16 books. And I'd just like to share the views of our Honorable Prime Minister.
मैं जापान गया, तो जापान मेरे कार्यक्रम में मैंने एक कार्यक्रम क्या जोड़ा? मैं वहाँ एक नोबेल लॉरिएट साइंटिस्ट याकामाहा को मिलने गया। मैं इसलिए किया गया कि उन्होंने स्टेम सेल के अंदर जो रिसर्च की है, मैंने जितना पढ़ा था तो मेरे मन में आया था शायद इनकी एक खोज हमारे काम आ सकती है क्या है। हम गए तो वहाँ गए, उनसे चर्चा की और बेंगलोर के हमारे साइंस इंस्टीट्यूट के साथ आज उस दिशा में हमारा काम हो रहा है कि स्टेम सेल्स के द्वारा हमारे युवा साइंटिस्ट कुछ खोज करें।
So that is the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, talking in Parliament about stem cells. And here is the President of the United States.
Today, with the executive order I am about to sign, we will bring the change that so many scientists and researchers, doctors and innovators, patients and loved ones have hoped for and fought for these past 8 years. We will lift the ban on federal funding for promising embryonic stem cell research. Scientists believe these tiny cells may have the potential to help us understand and possibly cure some of our most devastating diseases and conditions, to regenerate a severed spinal cord and lift someone from a wheelchair, to spur insulin production and spare a child from a lifetime of needles, to treat Parkinson's, cancer, heart disease, and others that affect millions of Americans and the people who love them. There's no finish line in the work of science. The race is always with us. The urgent work of giving substance to hope and answering those many bedside prayers of seeking a day when words like terminal and incurable are potentially retired from our vocabulary.
So my conclusion is that adult stem cell therapy that we use may be considered a safe and effective treatment option for autism, cerebral palsy, and intellectual disability. It accelerates development, reduces disability, helps in functional recovery, and improves the quality of his life. We heard the two biggest democracies in the world are India and America. You heard the Prime Minister of India speak of stem cells. You heard the President of America speak about stem cells. But now I want you to hear somebody more important than that. The child you saw in that video, he's right here, Ricky. Ricky, say a few words. Talk to the audience.
Thank you.
Say something.
Thank you, everyone. I like to say thank you for giving me the neurogen stuff which we made.
This child could not speak. This child could not go to school. Today he's standing in front of you and giving a speech. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. Come. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
It is really my privilege to introduce this next speaker. When Dolly told me that I was going to be introducing him, I said, "Are you sure you want me to introduce him?" Well, I'm here, so I guess she was sure. Dr. Kerry Magro is an award-winning autistic professional speaker, best-selling author, autism consultant to the HBO series Mrs. Fletcher that aired in the fall of 2019, and the latest seasons of Netflix's Emmy Award-winning series Love on the Spectrum. If you haven't seen that, you really need to watch it. It is very, very good. He started professionally speaking 12 years ago via the National Speakers Association after he fell in love with theater as a child to help with his social and communication skills. Today, he has spoken at over 1,200 events during the time, including 2 TED Talks and talks at Google presentations. In addition, Kerry is CEO and president of KFM Making a Difference, a nonprofit organization that hosts inclusion events and has provided 100 scholarships for students with autism for college and counting since 2011. In his spare time, which I'm not sure how he has, he hosts a Facebook page called Kerry's Autism Journey that now has 218,000 Facebook followers, where he does on-camera interviews highlighting people impacted by a diagnosis to break down barriers in our community. His videos have been produced and have been watched over 35 million times. Kerry's best-selling books, Defining Autism from the Heart and Autism and Falling in Love, I Will Light It Up Blue, and his latest, Autistics on Autism, have reached the Amazon bestseller list for special needs parenting. Kerry regularly speaks with schools, companies, government organizations, and is always open to discussing potential future collaborations. He is based in Hoboken, New Jersey. Let's give him a really big applause. He's got a video that's supposed to be starting.
Not bad for a guy who was completely nonverbal for the first few years of his life. But once Kerry Magro found his voice, he had a lot to say.
My parents have always told me I'm special, so why am I special? And then later on, I realized that I'm even more special because I have autism.
Kerry Magro's childhood was marked with rough patches. He was completely nonverbal at age 2 and diagnosed with autism at age 4.
I just remember having difficulties trying to explain myself to the world around me.
When Kerry did speak, he struggled to express himself.
Most of my memories were simply just about that kid who wanted to communicate with the world around him, but didn't have the verbal means of actually doing that.
His mother, Suzanne, remembers watching her son have a hard time adjusting to the outside world.
He turned 2 and he was scared of everything. He was scared of the water, he was scared of the rain.
But as the years went on, Kerry slowly began to find his words.
When you can't communicate with the people you love the most in this world about even some of your basic needs, it gets really, really tough. So, but luckily, once I started talking, I never stopped talking.
Wow, this is a tough one today.
Cindy Hsu introduces us to an autistic man who's spreading awareness and understanding throughout the world.
And his latest way of educating people about autism is by making TikTok videos.
I received over 4.1 million views on TikTok, and I just had so many parents, educators, family members who just wanted to learn more about autism, and they were like, keep going, keep doing what you're doing because it's making a difference.
In college, he started a nonprofit called KFM Making a Difference, which awards autistic students with college scholarships. He later earned his doctorate in education. He's now a professional speaker on autism and inclusion.
We've gotten inquiries from people from Africa, Canada, the UK, and it's just shown me that we're not alone in this community. There are people impacted by autism across the globe.
He's written 4 books. His latest one is called Autistics on Autism. All proceeds will go to his scholarship foundation.
You are going to find 100 amazing autistic adults' stories of how they were able to navigate their adolescence and ultimately succeed in their journeys.
He says most publicly funded services end for autistic children when they age out of school, so that could be late teens. He's fighting to get resources for autistic adults through legislation and has this message for parents.
Never give up on your child. Never give up on getting them the best quality supports so they could live their best quality of lives, because again, it's a spectrum. And it's really about providing those resources across the lifespan, because autistic children will grow up to be autistic adults, and we need to be ready for them.
And he'll keep promoting awareness any way he can.
What doing today? Awesome. It is such a huge honor to be here with all of you speaking on a really important topic that is facing so many individuals within our community. And honestly, today, with over 70 million people worldwide having some form of autism diagnosis, it's really important that we do our utmost to do a few quick things. The first one is to realize that autism is just one word trying to describe millions of different stories. My dear friend Stuart Duncan has that comment, and when you meet people with autism, it's really important to meet them where they are in their development. Autism is a very, very wide spectrum. The last time we were here in Dubai, ironically enough, was in 2016. And one of the speakers at that conference with me, his name is Dr. Stephen Shore, an internationally known public speaker who himself is autistic, says if you met one autistic person, you've met just that one autistic person. So let's keep the conversation going on meeting each individual where they are in their own development. So some housekeeping notes today. I'm an avid note taker during all these presentations. So typically I'm the guy sitting in the front row taking a photo of every single slide so I don't miss anything. So we're going to be providing you the PowerPoint slide notes from today's presentation. There will be a QR code at the end of today's presentation. You can scan that with your phone. And my dad still loves a Razr cell phone, so there will also be a link if you don't have a smartphone as well, so you don't miss any of the notes. So during my journey, I grew up with 2 laser-focused key interests. I grew up wanting to be the 6th member of the Backstreet Boys, and I also wanted to grow up to be the next Larry Bird. And with my autism diagnosis, I've always had extreme laser-focused key interests, and those were 2 of the big ones. Sports helped me with a lot of my fine motor skills growing up with autism. In addition to having autism, I also have a dual diagnosis of dysgraphia. It's really important that when we meet individuals where they are in their own development, that we look for comorbidities. So if an individual individual might have a dual diagnosis, we are able to diagnose that as early as possible. Early intervention truly is the key. Within those first 5 years, getting a diagnosis is really pivotal. So I took my love of sports to get a degree in sport management at Seton Hall University, where I'm based in New Jersey. Before deciding to change career paths, I realized that those individuals with disabilities make up the largest minority in the United States, and often they are one of the most underserved because, simply put, some individuals in our community have strong support needs and might not be able to advocate for themselves. So it's really important that we do our utmost to try to help one of the most underserved communities in the world today. So I decided to change career paths. I received a master's in strategic communications so I could become one of the first professionally certified speakers who is openly autistic in the United States. It's given me the opportunity to travel the globe in the past 12 years and get the opportunity to speak with so many incredible groups like your own about this topic of autism, but then also diversity, equity, inclusion. One of our big focuses, especially in the past few years, has really been focused on corporate and really focused on helping those with autism find meaningful employment and tapping into one of the most untapped talent pools that employers should consider. So really quickly today, and again, this was a journey, I want you to imagine something really quickly. Imagine not being able to tell your loved ones that you love them. Not being able to speak in full sentences until you were 7 years old. Having sensory challenges to the point where you felt like an alien compared to other people. Being such a picky eater that any time your parents tried to introduce you to a new food, it made you cringe. This used to be my life. When I was a kid, there were so many people who told me what I would never be able to do in this life. They would also tell me that I would have a photogenic memory, that I would be really great at math, and when I turned 21, my parents would take me to Las Vegas with them, and I would win them $88,000 on the blackjack tables. Prototypically, I was considered a Rain Man diagnosis. I was considered a savant, but I was also considered somebody who had a lot of limitations in his life. So what helped get me to where I am today speaking in front of all of you was over 15 years of occupational speech and physical therapy. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to our autism community. One of the first movies I ever got the opportunity to consult on was a movie from Warner Brothers called Joyful Noise, starring Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton, based on one of the characters in that film having autism. And Queen Latifah's character has a great quote in that movie where she says, "When things don't fit in a nice, pretty box, you build a bigger box." And that's what we have to do for individuals in their autism community. And my mom, love her to death, she's here with me today, had the opportunity to really create a bigger box for me, and that's why I'm here today. I love you, Mom. So, thank you. And now she's going to be blushing for the next 30 minutes, so I am so sorry for that. But she found what worked for me. She found that occupational speech and physical were integral. Using my key interest of being the sixth member of the Backstreet Boys to find music and theater therapy as an integral way of helping me with my sensory processing challenges. Also including reward systems and token systems as a way of helping me build on my self-motivation, especially when I was initially diagnosed with autism when I was 4 years old. And then also positive reinforcement practices. Telling our kids what they are good at the beginning of each day can really help provide a positive mindset for them in their academics every single day, but also their lives as well. And then also self-advocacy. It's so important in our society that we teach our kids about their diagnoses at earlier ages, because I grew up knowing I was special, but not knowing what that meant. So for years in my life, it was just me going to specialized children's hospitals and finding services and seeing kids lining up blocks and lining up their toys. And I was always like, these individuals are special just like me, but why am I special? And it was so life-changing to learn about my diagnosis. So my background today, I would say about 80% of our annual referrals are in speaking with diversity, equity, inclusion groups, employee resource groups, about tapping into this untapped talent pool. Some of the things that you should know is that those with autism, on average, are more likely to stay at a job longer. They are more likely to take less time off from work, And when we talk about the majority of reasonable accommodations, I speak to so many companies, even globally, who say, well, Kerry, I'm not sure if I could actually hire somebody who's on the autism spectrum because I think it's going to affect the bottom line. And a lot of people don't know this. The majority of reasonable accommodations cost absolutely nothing. And when they do, it's typically just an onboarding fee of around $500 to $1,000. So let's start changing the conversation. I took my love of theater when I graduated from college to really just get involved with the entertainment industry. I got to meet a wonderful man named Todd Graff, who was directing this movie called Joyful Noise. And I told him about how theater had an impact on me growing up on the autism spectrum. And he was like, Kerry, would you like to be a consultant on this film? I didn't actually know this was a job that people could get paid for. And I thought I was getting punked at the time. And I thought it was just like a practical joke that my parents kind of like threw at me from like a family friend. But within just a few days, I was working on this Hollywood film with one of the characters having autism. And we've now got an opportunity to work on a wide range of films and TV shows today that focus on autism-related characters, because representation truly, truly matters within our community, and seeing more individuals with disabilities on the screen today. I took my love of trying to support the disability community to start a 501c3 nonprofit organization called KFM Making a Difference, where we provide not only peer mentoring for individuals with developmental disabilities from the ages of 16 to 24, but we also have provided 130 scholarships for autistic students to pursue a post-secondary education in the past 9 years. And 100% of our 100 of our scholarship applicants actually wrote a chapter for our book, Autistics on Autism, where 100% of the proceeds from this book that came out last year go directly back to support our nonprofit organization. So along the way, one of my mentees, when I was just starting off my nonprofit, said to me, Kerry, how do I learn more about the autism community from people who are actually impacted by autism? And I didn't have any resources to share with him, really. So I thought to myself, why not write a book? I assumed it would sell 50 copies and be a good Christmas gift for my parents. When my first book, Defining Autism from the Heart, came out, focused on self-advocacy. But within 3 days, it became an Amazon bestseller for special need parenting. And it continued to give us a platform to discuss autism within our communities, writing books about autism in relationships, college for students with disabilities, in addition to how we look at this life after lockdown, after COVID-19, and how we could support individuals with developmental disabilities. And one of the most fun things I get to do as part of my job is I get to meet local self-advocates, and I get the opportunity to nurture their self-advocacy. We got to meet this incredible family that I wanted to highlight with all of you today, because it's a unique message that I hope more people in our community can really relate to. So we're going to play this video, and fingers crossed tech works.
Yeah. You have two sisters, Rachel?
Both sisters.
Both sisters. JJ, what do you like to do for fun?
Chicken on overs. Super shows.
His personality is amazing. He's so funny. He doesn't even know it. Like, he doesn't know how funny he is, which makes it better.
I love how JJ makes these movies, and he uses the stuffed animals, and he shows us to all of us, and I think it's really cool.
What is one of your favorite things about your sister?
Like the
JJ likes out with Katie.
Yeah, okay, yeah. What do you like about me? Yeah, me.
Yeah.
What do you like?
Television.
Okay.
I don't like how people treat autistic kids different, because they're exactly like us. They have feelings too, and they act like autistic kids don't have feelings.
How does it make you feel?
It makes me really upset.
For siblings who might be watching this at home, what would you like them to know if they may have a brother or sister who's on the autism spectrum?
Celebrate accomplishments, encourage them to do the best that they can. We have a good
So one of the key messages I hope I could leave you with today is that it takes a village. And you have to realize that regardless of where you are in this journey, whether you're an educator here today, a therapist, a parent, or a self-advocate, it's important to know that every single individual in your lives can hopefully become part of this village to make sure that we're providing reliable autism resources across the lifespan for our over 70 million individuals who are autistic today. So every single place I go to speak, I've had the opportunity to travel the globe and get the opportunity to share my story, but I realized that many individuals in our local communities didn't have an opportunity to share and lift their voices. So I started a video series as part of my Facebook page, Kerry's Autism Journey, where we now get to not only nurture self-advocacy in these young individuals, but also give them a platform to hopefully break down barriers and biases within our community. We've highlighted everyone from a 6-month-old with Down syndrome in the Bahamas all the way to an Army veteran with cerebral palsy who didn't tell his platoon that he had cerebral palsy so he could fight for our country. So it was truly, truly remarkable. The other big note I hope I could leave you with today is that girls with disabilities often fall through the cracks in our society. We see this so much with so many girls being able to bear masks, different characteristics, such as stimming, such as known as self-stimulatory behavior. There are some individuals who fall through the cracks because of that. We're gonna skip this video and maybe come back for it if we have a little bit of time. But what I will tell you about Rachel's story is that Rachel is a truly amazing individual who didn't get diagnosed until she was a little bit older. And it was because of, again, so much stigma in our communities is focused on boys with disabilities. Now, we're not only talking about autism, but we're talking about ADD, ADHD, and the neurodiverse lens that we talk about in our communities. In addition to that, when we talk about this topic of autism, we need more not only government organizations, but we also need more travel destinations to go about certification. I've had the wonderful opportunity to collaborate with a group called IBCCES, who do certified autism centers around the country. We just spent yesterday at Aquaventure at Atlantis, and they are a certified autism center. We got to see sensory guides that they had for different rides, which told you how much sensory processing each ride specifically had. And it was just so amazing to see the structure there, especially to bring families of autistic children to our parks. It was truly an amazing thing to see. In addition to that, when we talk about this, it's also just great to reduce stigmas. One of the great things about certified autism centers is that they train up to 80% of their employees on autism and sensory awareness in the hopes of helping these individuals understand a little bit more about how to approach our community. So how I got involved in making the world more inclusive, my interest in certification started with wanting to host more sensory-friendly meetings in my home state of New Jersey. For the past 10 years, I've played an autism and sensory-friendly Santa Claus, where we had the opportunity to meet children with disabilities at their level to really, truly support them, especially from a sensory processing perspective. So I decided to join a board called IBCCS based in Jacksonville, Florida in 2019 to support this community. So during my work in public speaking, one of the most interesting experiences I had was when I was speaking at a Fortune 500 company, and we were speaking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and one of the individuals in there asked me if every single person who has autism grows up to be the good doctor. If anyone has seen The Good Doctor is a show on ABC focused on Dr. Sean Murphy, a savant who is on the autism spectrum. And that is why we need to make sure people realize that autism is not only in children, but there are going to be individuals in our workplaces that you meet in the future who are also going to have these diagnoses. And not every single person you meet will end up fitting in this lens of the Rain Man, good doctor stereotype. So that's the other big thing. We have to realize that autism has no look. Typically, the two most common things people say to me when they come up to me for the first time is they say, Kerry, you have autism, but you don't look like you have autism. And then also, Kerry, you have autism, but you look so normal. Disability has no look, and it's important that we not only discuss this, because it's also important about promoting kindness. When we talk about our society, there are going to be people that you meet who you're only going to see the challenges that may face on the surface. You're not going to know what's going on in day-to-day lives. So one of my biggest challenges, though, was sensory related. I grew up having a hypersensitivity when it came to loud noises. I would wear earbuds in my ears. I would wear sunglasses in many of my classrooms due to fluorescent lights. So luckily, though, I had not only a great occupational therapy team, but I also had an in-house occupational therapist who truly, truly helped me. And this is a global movement that we're seeing. There are more groups that want to go about certifications because they realize that it's not only the right thing to do, but it also demonstrates high ROI, because at the end of the day, more individuals are likely to buy products from groups that patronize with the disability community and support those with disabilities. We were so excited to see that Mesa, Arizona became one of the first autism certified cities in the globe. And they've done a remarkable work, not only to provide certified autism centers for first responder groups, but also their businesses and travel destinations as well. And in addition to that, Dubai recently announced it plans to become the first certified autism destination in the Eastern Hemisphere. Give your guys yourselves a round of applause. That's really, truly, truly remarkable. And we need more individuals like yourselves championing this cause. So we applaud Dubai for taking the necessary steps to make certifications like this possible, realizing the importance of the autism community. One of my favorite experiences I've ever had was at a certified autism center. After growing up as somebody who struggled with textural issues and having issues with water on my skin, there was always something soothing about playing with animals in the water. So I got to go to the Discovery Cove in Florida, which was at a certified autism center, and we got the opportunity to swim with dolphins. And I have terrible balance issues. I can't ride a bike for the life of me. And in the water that day, I was having some challenges because the land was very, very tough. I also have flat feet, so that didn't help this situation. So I was at Discovery Cove, and one of the best things that somebody did for me there was just showing me compassion. They not only showed me compassion in being able to just hold my hand while I was going in the water to swim with the dolphins, but they asked questions when they were unsure about something. I think some of the easiest things that can help our autism community are some of the things that just make the most common sense in the world. Continue to ask questions when you're uncertain about something, and then also pursuing competence. They pursued competence for me every single minute that I was there at that park. And that's truly why I love the idea of certifications in our local community. In addition to that, other things to consider, autism and the majority of disabilities are lifelong. While early intervention is the key, those first 5 years are pivotal, we need to realize that people don't cure themselves of having autism. We spoke in Egypt a few years ago when we were laying the pyramids of Giza blue, and I was just talking to somebody about this earlier, and one of the parents asked me if exorcisms could cure autism, and I was like, oh, wow, that's an interesting perspective I haven't heard from before. It just goes to show that the education truly needs to be there in more of our local communities, because if you don't have that personal connection, and just by a show of hands really quickly today, how many of you know of somebody who's on the autism spectrum? And if you feel comfortable, how many of you have a sibling or a family member who's on the autism spectrum? Okay. And if you feel comfortable enough, how many self-advocates are here today? Yeah, we have quite a few. It takes a village, and using your voice can truly make such an important change within our community. Another key message I hope I can leave you with today: if it isn't written down, it did not happen. Documentation is so important, especially when we look in 2023. Hearsay is something we really can't get behind anymore. We need to make sure that we're not only documenting in our workplaces, but also for our kids. I think it's important for every therapist and educator to have a journal where they can document for their child, look at short and long-term goals that they have for the individuals, but also helping the parents understand about their developmental milestones as well. And I truly believe this message right here. I think schools should truly have a mandatory class that you get credit for, where you learn more about people with diagnoses. Imagine students getting just a little education on autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, dyslexia, cerebral palsy. It could make a huge impact on understanding and acceptance. I truly believe that in that message. And that's why many individuals in our local communities are pivoting our conversations. April is also known to many of us as Autism Awareness Month, but many individuals in our community are pivoting it to Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, realizing that it's not enough to just be aware about autism, but how can we be inclusive? So these are some great ways that we can be inclusive in our education setting today. One of the biggest things I say is that finding an individual and understanding what type of learner they are, whether they're a visual learner, whether they're an auditory learner, or whether they're a kinetic learner, where they learn by movement and moving around. Being able to, again, meet every single individual where they are. Being concise, giving choices, also considering visual timers as a way of helping individuals with transitions. Educate on stimming and flapping. For example, I've been stimming this entire time. Every single time I've moved my hand like this is a stim. And for everyone here in this room, every single one of you stim. Whenever you've rocked back and forth in a chair during a long meeting, that's a stim. Stimming and flapping can look vastly different. Some are going to be arm movements, twirling around in circles, while some of it is just like me, just rubbing my hands and doing this every now and then. And for so many individuals, if you see that happening, don't stop the stim, especially if it's not injurious to them or people in their local community. Also, in addition to that, in our school systems, we really need to focus on the parent-teacher collaboration. But in addition to that, we also need to realize that mental health is a true priority. We need to defeat stigmas that see autism as a mental health disorder, but we do need to realize that some people with autism have mental health-related challenges and comorbidities. So connecting on people on a personal level, but also researching social emotional learning as well can be really beneficial. Also, in addition to that, consider lesson plans in your schools focused on giving individuals positive peer role models to look up to. We get the opportunity to speak in a wide range of K through 12 schools, where we get the opportunity to discuss, for example, individuals like Michael Jordan has ADD, Magic Johnson has attention deficit disorder, and my favorite on this list, Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd grew up with two laser-focused key interests. He grew up wanting to be a ghost hunter, and he grew up wanting to become a crime detective, and he took those two key passions to co-write a movie in the 1980s called, does anyone know what the movie is? Okay, sorry, karaoke with us later. We'll be outside during the lunch break. But it's so true. And years later, he would sit down with a reporter and he would say that it was because of his autism diagnosis was the reason that he was able to come out with that script. So when we look at some people with disabilities, realize that some people with disabilities are truly capable of amazing things. In addition to that, it's important to rule out SMA-associated mental health conditions as humanly possible as well. And that was something my parents did for me. Learning about my diagnosis, I didn't learn about my diagnosis until I was in a social skills class where we were playing Disability Celebrity Bingo, where we were learning about all these individuals. And I raised my hand and I asked the teacher, so teacher, you said all these people, some of the most talented and successful people in the globe are special, just like me. So why am I special? And she said I had to talk to my parents about that. So I talked to my parents about it right after school that day, and that was the first time they ever told me that I had autism. And it was life-changing. For so many years of not knowing why I was special, everything came full circle for the first time. And I started understanding why I was stimming, why I was wearing sunglasses in many of my classrooms, and everything just came to perfect sense for me. So it's important when we talk about this to have earlier conversations so when our children are in school, they can understand a little bit more about the accommodations that they may receive. Also consider having a dialogue with parents that you may know about the importance of a child's diagnosis as well. So in addition to that, what helped me is we need to emphasize that the key is communication, not speech. There's going to be individuals in our community, specifically where I'm based in the United States, 40% of all autistic people are either non-speaking or nonverbal. But one of the stigmas we have is that a lot of people think that they are unintelligent and have a low IQ. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Most people on average, especially in the United States who are nonverbal, have an average to above average IQ. So we need to realize that also the key is communication, not speech. But just because somebody's nonverbal does not necessarily mean that they're unintelligent. There's some great global tools that you can use to understand how individuals in your communities communicate, such as the communication matrix. This is a free benchmarking tool that helps assess how individuals communicate within our local communities, from things like pre-attentional behavior, intentional behavior, and then also unconventional, and also helping you understand the differences between nonverbal and non-speaking, because there's a lot of stigmas around that. Nonverbal literally means no noises at all, no babbling at a certain amount of months a kid is growing up. Non-speaking could be something completely opposite of that. In addition to that importance of peer mentoring, I truly believe that every school system around the globe should have a strong peer mentoring program, because it just makes sense. It doesn't affect the bottom line in our schools. Typically, it just takes an academic advisor 20 to 25 hours every academic year to put into place to give kids positive peer role models. It not only has been shown to lead to decreases in depression, anxiety, but it also helps from a bullying prevention perspective as well. And then social connections can lead to academic success. We need to educate our schools about the importance of providing more elective opportunities, but also more unified classrooms as well, helping individuals with and without disabilities be able to interact, not only to become more inclusive overall, but to help them have those social connections, because a little awareness can truly go a long way. And then also considering educating around universal design for learning. Lecture style is truly, truly dying in many of our communities. So the importance of getting individuals out of their seat and engaging with them is really, really important. Hey, Mama Mags, how am I doing on time? Nice, nice. See, I put her to work. Guys. Encouraging parent involvement can also be, and she'll be blushing for the next 12 minutes too. It's amazing. I love you, Mom. I love you. Encouraging parent involvement is really key as well. I did my dissertation. I got my doctorate in education at New Jersey City University, so I could become an adjunct professor while I continue my full-time job public speaking. And I did a qualitative study focused on the perception of resources for parents of children with autism who are in online communities. And what we learned from these semi-structured interviews was the importance of trying to find a village, especially for those who have multiple jobs, for military families who might be traveling a lot, being able to find your village online, and seeing that a lot of parents have found success using Facebook groups and other methods of technology as a way of helping them communicate, especially around referrals towards different therapies and supports in their local areas. Also consider in your schools having alumni organizations comprising of individuals with disabilities to educate the school districts about the disability community and what helped them when they were in school. Again, something that doesn't affect the bottom line, and it just makes a lot of sense. In addition to that, creating home safety zones. One of the things that we've loved about the certified autism centers we've seen here in Dubai is that each one of them has a quiet zone or a quiet space. And that just helps so many of us, regardless if somebody has autism and has social and communication challenges or sensory-related challenges. All of us could use a quiet space every now and then. I know I could. And then also considering how we look at visuals, especially for non-speaking individuals, I definitely recommend, especially in local parks that you know, considering advocating with your local governments to look at instituting communication boards as a way of helping individuals who are non-speaking communicate with those who are verbal. PECS boards also known as picture exchange communication systems, are something that has truly been very, very helpful for many individuals within our autism community. In addition to that, we need more inclusive events in our classrooms. And I wanted to share a quick video with all of you so you could get a little sense of one of the things that we're doing to try to be more inclusive for the world.
One-of-a-kind meeting with Santa. The 8-year-old has autism and is nonverbal. Her father brought her to this event because this Santa's helper understands the challenges of autism firsthand.
Santa also has autism. Such a special connection, special bond.
The helper is actually 28-year-old Kerry Magro. Diagnosed at 4, his sensory challenges prevented him from visiting Santa as a child. He created this event so others like him don't miss out.
This event is more inclusive because we dim the lights, we turn down the sound and try to help them as much as we can.
Just does a great job. It just takes his time. There's no rush.
Most of the elves and Mrs. Claus are occupational therapists and special education teachers. The team visited with 181 special needs families, including 4-year-old Rusty Marsh. Is this the first time you've seen Santa?
Yes. Is it?
Yes. And was he a nice Santa?
Yes.
With 1 in 68 children diagnosed with autism, Magro hopes to inspire more sensory-friendly events all year round.
Autism doesn't stop in December. It doesn't stop during Christmas.
Santa says,
"This is the best Christmas gift of all."
This is the 3rd year of the event, and Magro's mom is one of those jolly elves.
So the girl in the last slide that said, I want everybody to be happy, we're actually working on a children's book together right now that is going to be focused on autism and sensory-friendly Santa, where I believe most of the proceeds will go back to our scholarship program as well. So it's just important overall when we talk about these sensory-friendly inclusion events. It just makes sense. It gets more people out to our public areas. It also can help build attendance, especially after COVID-19, with COVID-19 hesitancy in some of our areas. If you want to learn more about how you can create a sensory-friendly inclusive event, I would definitely recommend going to this website called paautism.org. On their website, they have a one-sheet PDF where you could learn a little bit more about the sensory considerations you could put into place to make this a reality in your local area, such as being able to turn down bright lights, turn down external noises, and the other sensory considerations as well. Also realize that bullying is such a huge epidemic across the globe. When we were here in 2016 speaking at the Autism Around the World conference, we got to work with the Dubai Autism Center. And one of the key messages that we left with them was that bullying is something that's not only in school-age children. We see a lot of bullying in the workplaces today as well. So we have to realize that this could be a lasting challenge for many in our community. I didn't have the social abilities to defend myself in many cases as somebody who didn't start speaking complete sentences till I was 7. And it's really, really important that we educate our kids on what a friend is, what a bully is, and how to go about stopping bullying, especially for our verbal students. When stopping bullying happened for me completely, I realized what bullies did. So I would role play different scenarios in my classrooms with my teachers on how to stop a bullying, where if somebody said to me, "Kerry, you have autism, but you are so stupid," I would turn around and I'd be like, "Well, yeah, sometimes I do stupid things. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention." And that literally would stop the bully from because when you don't give them the power over you, we have to realize that bullying simply is just that, an imbalance of power. And when that bully wants the power over somebody else, being able to tell the bully that regardless of what you say, you could hate my guts, I'm still gonna love you anyway, it completely stops that situation from happening. So let's continue those conversations. October is also National Bullying Prevention Month, so it has a global perspective on discussing the importance of pivoting from autism awareness to autism acceptance. There's also going to be individuals in your community who would prefer to be called an autistic individual versus a person with autism. That's really, really important to understand. There's some individuals, especially in our autism and deaf communities, who find validation in their diagnoses. So in addition to that, when you look at things like low functioning and high functioning, it's really, really important to understand that I could speak in front of a room of 300 people like today and be considered quote unquote high functioning. But people don't see the struggles that I'm probably going to have to deal with tomorrow, recharging my batteries because of being able to speak, hearing the speakers and the loud noises going on. And during that time, I would not be considered quote unquote high functioning. So when you think about this, consider support needs, those who might have high support needs versus low support needs. And like so many of our speakers have already mentioned, just calling the individual by their name and explaining a little bit more about their strengths and associated challenges. So finally, the 10 things that really helped me get to where I am today speaking in front of all of you. The first thing is that we need to make sure that we're providing positive peer role models, that we're focused on the transition period as well. Our autistic kids will become autistic adults, and we need to be ready for them. I've given 2 TED Talks that are available to check out on YouTube, focused on adult autism, where we discuss this in more detail. Role-playing, it just helps everyone. It helps build a structure, not only in terms of mock interviews, dating scenarios, but also helping build on social skills as well. Servant leadership, I had so much mind blindness growing up, and I thought it was my way or the highway most of the time, and I didn't understand the perspectives of others. And getting involved in community service helped open my eyes to some of the hardships that individuals face in their communities. I think that our students should have just 10 hours of community service every academic year to understand more about the perspectives of others in our community. Learning from other self-advocates, you obviously got to hear from Dr. Temple Grandin. She is phenomenal this morning. But continuing to promote self-advocates to give individuals an opportunity to look up to somebody. Peer mentoring, it just makes sense. Every school should have them. Before COVID-19, we were giving staff development for 350 educators in Las Vegas. And we asked them, how many of you have a strong peer mentoring program in your school? And only 3 out of the 350 raised their hands. And I was stunned. This doesn't affect the bottom line, and it's just the right thing to do. Like Queen Latifah's character says, create a bigger box. So when it comes to therapy, you have to meet each individual where they are. But I've seen positive benefits of cognitive behavioral therapy as a way of helping individuals go towards positive thoughts who might have negative thoughts and challenging behaviors. Self-reflection, I think, again, documentation is key for all the educators in the room. But in addition to that, it just helps build on self-awareness for individuals, especially those who are just learning about their diagnosis. Physical activity, as we learn more about the brain, we're also realizing that just 30 minutes of walking a day has benefits on short-term and long-term retention, while also helping with positive endorphins. Also, finding support networks. ICAN is a tremendous, tremendous resource. I hope all of you go to their website after this presentation today and really gain the resources, get their ebook, because they're truly making a difference. And then also writing a blog, because your voice has true power within our community, and it's upon all of us. If I could leave you with any final message, is I hope you can be brave. I grew up being the kid who never wanted to tell anybody about my autism diagnosis because I was worried how everybody would feel when they heard that I had autism for the first time. And now today I go into the companies and they say to me, Kerry, I want to do professional development on autism, and I want to have you speak in my conferences, but I'm not brave enough to kind of talk about autism because it's such a sensitive topic. And with the numbers continuing to increase, not only where I'm from in the US, where it's 1 in 36, but globally, I want every single one of you in this room to be brave, because it's about our community and it's about supporting these individuals across the lifespan. So I like to say that autism can't define me, and I define autism. And I can only hope that regardless of any single journey that any of you have in this life, that you can go out there and you can define your lives and your journeys in the way that you best see it every single day. And if you need any help getting started in these conversations, please stay in touch. Thank you all so much for having me here today.
Yeah, so just one small announcement that we have. We would really love to felicitate Kerry's mother, and we would like to call upon Miss Mercy, as she's as well a parent, and hand over the award to Kerry's mother. Ma'am, please. Now, it's a true honor to call Dr. Nadia Al-Saig on stage. She's our chief guest. Please, all of you all, a big round of applause for ma'am. She's the founder and Director General of Senses Residential and Daycare for Special Needs. We would really like to felicitate ma'am, as Senses has been the strategic partner for ICAN. Next, we would social media. Yeah. We'll just do a bit of that. Next, we would like to felicitate MENA organization as well, as they as well are the strategic partners for ICAN. A big round of applause. Thank you so much. And now we would like to felicitate Farhan Shahid, who is from Senses and has been helping us with the entire organization of ICAN. So thanks to one and all for helping us putting this show up. Okay, now I would like to invite Dr. Nadia to say a few words. Yes, ma'am.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام محمد المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Good morning everyone, and I would like to welcome the International Conference for Autism and New Developmental Disorder, ICAN Dubai 2023. It's a great honor to be a part of this event, and hope we come down with this conference with the best practice to the region and share knowledge to the latest trends on autism and new developmental disorder. And really, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you all, thank the speakers and the partners of this conference, and especially the audience for your participation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So now we will be inaugurating our book, Treatments for Autism. As we did see in the film, it was earlier already inaugurated in English, but now we are inaugurating it in Arabic language. So ma'am would do the honors. you a brief about this book. This book has all the therapies, treatments, all the information about autism and all kinds of newer age treatments as well in the book. You can have a copy online on our website. You can request for that, as well as we have English books that are available. So you can just send us an email on our website. Just log on to www.autismconnect.com and you can just subscribe for the book and you will be able to get one. Thank you so much, everyone. I would really be very thankful to all of you. Thank you so much.